If the reinforcements Lu Yongi mentioned are real, and if the warriors' stamina and morale are still at their peak, then even against 100,000 aliens, counterattacking might be tough, but holding them off is still possible. But the problem is, the last battle drained everyone's strength. Before, 3 men could take on 1 alien. Now, it takes 5, maybe even 6, just to barely hold the line. The power gap between the two sides is just too wide. If this army hadn't quadrupled its numbers to 700,000, there wouldn't be a snowball's chance in hell of winning. But if it's like Lu Yongi said, and the whole army retreats, then out of the current 180,000, way more people will survive than if we just sit here and defend. Go. Everyone, retreat with the rafts. The alien's target is me. It's the tundra. I'll bring up the rear. Tianlong, Lu Neng, go break the chains, then fall back with the others. Just hold out until 12 o'clock. When the reinforcements arrive, everyone will live. Before the captains could even panic, Lu Yongi slowly turned around. As if he had just figured something out, his eyes were cold, without a single trace of confusion. His face was calm, showing absolutely no fear of death. There was only a fleeting hint of regret deep in his eyes. Other than that, his aura was even stronger than it was a day ago. You're not leaving, huh? Then those who stay with me, get ready to die. As his last word dropped, the entire command room felt like it had been plunged into an ice cellar. Lu Yongi's gaze right now sent shivers down everyone's spine. If he was a model captain and a benevolent leader before, at this moment, in the eyes of the other captains, he was no different from a starving wolf. A wolf that hadn't eaten in 3 days and was backed into a corner. Even though he looked gaunt and frail, like a single blow could knock him down, no one dared to underestimate him. Because anyone who dared to try and finish him off right now would definitely get bitten to death in return. In the end, Lu Yongi didn't force anyone. He stood up and staggered out of the command room, heading toward the place where he would face his greatest fear since setting foot in this wasteland. But he didn't expect that the moment he took a step, someone would block his way. Damn it, Director Lu. How big is this ship? How wide is this sea? Where do you think you're going? Sacrificing yourself for everyone sure makes you look like a badass. You tell me to retreat, so you can hog all the glory of being a hero? I, Lu Neng, refuse. Haha, it's just death, right? Dying early, dying late, dying wherever, it's all the same. Are you looking down on me? Fear is human instinct. But once you dare to face that fear, it's not so scary anymore. Looking at Lu Neng blocking his way, Lu Yongi smiled and gave a slight nod. Aside from their height, faces, and the scars on their bodies, the two of them were like mirror images right now. Even their smiles were terrifyingly similar. Lu Yongi had overcome his own fear, and so had Lu Neng. This time, Lu Neng was the first to turn around. But before he could get far, just like how he had stopped Lu Yongi earlier, he was blocked by everyone else still alive in the command room. What's this? You two putting on a tearjerker? Lu Neng, your ship sank. What are you even trying to pull? I'm Li Tian. Since the day I was born, I've learned a lot of words, but fear and running away were never among them. If I die, I die. Over 200,000 just died. Adding me to the pile won't make much of a difference. Reinforcements, huh? But Director Lu, I'll be honest with you. Your luck is truly second to none. So let me be your reinforcements. The man I follow is Lu Yongi. If he hasn't left, how could I dare retreat? I was born in Huaxia. If the people haven't fallen, how could I kneel? One after another, they spoke up. The apocalypse was staring them right in the face. They were clearly marching to their deaths. They clearly might never see tomorrow's sun. Yet in this cramped command room, there was nothing but hearty laughter and relieved faces. People living in peacetime will never understand why, in times of war, so many of our ancestors were willing to march into battle and die. Is it a mission? Is it a responsibility? Or just a moment of impulse? No one can say for sure. But looking at the calm eyes of the people around me, I knew everyone had their own answer. Director Lu, I'll go down and command the lower teams to retreat. Oh, and give me a pack of explosives. Climbing up and down the tundra is exhausting. I'm going to be too lazy for that later. Director Lu, I want one too. Those sailors miss every time they throw. It pisses me off. Let me throw it this time. If I miss, you can chop my head off. Director Lu, I'll take one too. Even the aliens know how to play the assassination game. How can we lose to them? Later, I'll give them a little surprise. Listening to these absurd requests, Liu Yongi didn't yell or scowl like he usually did. He just smiled kindly, nodded, and kept saying, "All right." In less than 5 minutes, the word, "all right," echoed a total of 39 times. 39 surviving captains walked out of the command room with relieved smiles, completely different from the tension they had when they walked in. Some went down to their ships, some commanded the retreat, and some prepared weapons. Even though there were only about 40 minutes left before the tsunami ended, for them, there was still enough time. At 9:03, the warriors on the bamboo rafts began to understand what this order meant. But even though they understood, no one objected. They just silently carried out the final order of the Tundra fleet. Sacrifice isn't scary. What's scary is a meaningless sacrifice. If they didn't retreat, it would mean letting over 10,000 people stay behind to cover them and die in vain. The remaining 22 rafts, carrying 150,000 people, began gathering supplies and preparing to pull back from the front lines. The retreat plan was agreed upon, scatter in all directions, divided into 14 routes in total. Even if the aliens wanted to surround or pursue them, they could only chase down a few of those routes at most. At 9:11, the sea shook violently. Opposite the Tundra fleet's defense line, deep within the dense alien formation, 3 pillars of fire suddenly erupted. Because the explosions happened right inside their ranks, even from far away, everyone could clearly hear the agonizing screams of the aliens. You didn't even have to guess. It was a surprise attack that made them taste real pain. But unlike before, amidst the raging tsunami, no one was surprised. Everyone just quietly raised their heads, stood in silence for 3 seconds, bowed toward the explosions, and then went back to the work at hand. At 9:19, under the cover of the tsunami, the first raft began to leave the formation, heading in the opposite direction of the aliens. After that, another raft broke off every minute. Before the tsunami ended at 9:30, 11 rafts had already left the defensive perimeter. At 9:31, the aliens still hadn't launched an attack. Instead, they continued to mass their forces in the distance. The retreat of the rafts didn't stop. The remaining 11 rafts continued to break off at a steady pace. By 9:45, all 22 rafts had completely retreated. 150,000 people split into 14 directions, completely breaking away from the main fleet. The defense line, which was expected to collapse from being so empty, strangely became more organized and efficient. Looking at the situation now, if they still had as much ammo as they did at the start, even 100,000 aliens might not be able to breach this line. Unfortunately, that was all just theory. When the real war begins, regrets can't save a damn thing. At 9:59, exactly 40 minutes since the first raft retreated, the number of red dots on the map stopped increasing, locking in at 120,000. Compared to the captain's initial estimates, this number was lower. But against a defense force of just over 10,000, it was still a terrifying amount of pressure. At 10:03, from a distance, the aliens seemed to have noticed the emptiness of the Tundra fleet, or maybe they had finally gathered enough troops. They didn't wait any longer. The decisive battle officially began. Throughout the long history of human warfare, what mattered for soldiers was never sheer numbers, but elite quality. To cater to popular taste, many war records often exaggerated tales of the few defeating the many. This made people used to the mindset that more troops meant a bigger advantage, and winning with fewer numbers was seen as defying fate. But in the Gaiyu Tsongkao, by the Qing dynasty scholar Zhao Yi, when tallying up ancient battles, it becomes clear that winning with fewer troops wasn't actually rare. In ancient times, when communication relied mostly on shouting and transport on walking, a crucial metric for evaluating a strategist or general was their ability to mobilize troops. The more troops you had, the less room for error the terrain allowed, the lower the command efficiency, and the logistical pressure grew exponentially. So why did the ancients still love to inflate their numbers? The answer is simple: psychological warfare. Overwhelming numbers were enough to create massive pressure, causing the enemy's ranks to fall into chaos. When the real fighting started, just a light strike could secure victory. But from ancient times to now, the reason humans could use the weak to defeat the strong was just as simple: fighting to the death. At 10:24, just over 20 minutes later, the aliens' first charge was repelled on the spot by the Tundra fleet, with a mere 10,000 men. During that entire charge, the heavy firepower on the tundra hadn't even fired. Relying solely on individuals with crossbows and 2 soldiers carrying explosives for underwater sneak attacks, the fleet successfully halted the aliens' aggressive momentum. Compared to the previous bloody battle, achieving such a result this time was largely because, out of the 80,000 alien reinforcements, most were from the mainland. Unlike the 100,000 marine aliens that fought before, the mainland aliens could swim, but their speed was absolutely pathetic. They couldn't catch up to the fleet at all. They lost their biggest advantage. They couldn't dive straight to the bottom of the ships and pop up for a sneak attack. Instead, they were forced to row small boats and wooden rafts to give chase. Once they lost their edge and had to fight in an environment humans were more familiar with, the outcome was pretty much set in stone. Right from the start of the battle, the number of 120,000 aliens quickly dropped to 112,000. A full 8,000 of them died at sea. After the rafts completely retreated, the fleet had no worries about their rear, so they fought while falling back. The battlefield situation clearly shifted along with it. This change made the volunteers who stayed behind to cover the retreat cheer with joy, their morale skyrocketing. But on the tundra battleship, where 14 captains were frantically commanding, not a single person could crack a smile. Team 3, 3,000 arrows left, 1,800 crossbow bolts. Team 1, 900 arrows left, 3,700 bolts. Team 2, 6,300 arrows left, crossbow bolts depleted. 7 large ships, 18 small ships. Except for the tundra acting as the command ship without any escorts, the other large ships were each accompanied by 3 small ships to form a squad. It only took 3 minutes to tally up the remaining ammo for all the squads. Because using a bow takes way more energy than a crossbow, even though they started with equal amounts, the gap was now 3-to-1. In total, there were 33,000 arrows and 11,500 crossbow bolts left. That's 44,500 projectiles in total. It sounds like a lot. One guy couldn't shoot all that in 10 days and 10 nights. But if you divide it evenly among nearly 10,000 people right now, that amount is only enough for 5 volleys. We have 24 packs of explosives left and 85 packs of homemade explosives. They've been distributed to the suicide squad. We don't have to worry about the next wave for now. I suggest that after we defend the next wave, we scatter and stretch the front line to reduce the pressure. Agreed. Scattering will give us better mobility. Standing at the bow of the ship under the pale silver moonlight, the captains discussed while using binoculars to observe the alien formation. After that last defeat, they seem to have learned their lesson. Even though it's unclear what they're waiting for or preparing, looking at their current posture, there's absolutely no sign they're going to attack immediately. A battle with over 100,000 troops, yet it's this quiet? It's way too abnormal. That suspicion didn't last long. Just 7 minutes later, when the binoculars caught a familiar sight straight out of a movie, forced smiles appeared on everyone's faces. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. Tianlong actually dared to go this far. Isn't he afraid his ancestors will rise from the grave to settle the score with him? Huh, I didn't expect it either. We avoided commanding through the chat channel and used real people to guide the retreat, yet they still got caught. Thinking about it, it's kind of ironic. In the end, our biggest enemy is still our own people. Conscience, you call those scumbags our own people? Calling him a traitor to humanity is giving him too much credit. From within the scattered alien formation, massive rafts slowly drifted out. On each raft, behind every single person, stood an armed alien standing guard. At this distance, in the dead of night, even with binoculars, you couldn't clearly see their expressions or movements. You could only vaguely sense that something was horribly wrong. Like the captains on the scene, everyone could picture that vicious smile in their heads. I opened the game panel, and the regional channel was still usable. Sure enough, Tianlong's message had quietly appeared at some point. Tianlong. To all my compatriots in Warzone 352, hello everyone. It's a shame we have to meet under these circumstances. I hope you'll all be understanding. Tianlong. I know the Tundra fleet is mighty. When you retreated, you still had 22 rafts. Even though we only caught 4 of them right now, with 26,000 people on board, it's fine. I'll give you half an hour to return to the position you just retreated from. Tianlong. Of course, you don't have to come back. I'm very happy to announce that the Tundra's rearguard is indeed very skilled. You held us off and gave yourselves a chance to escape. Run as much as you want. Run as far as you want. But from now on, for every second that passes, we will execute one person. Until you come back. Tianlong. Oh, I almost forgot. To the leaders bringing up the rear. Right now, your fleet, aside from the Tundra, has 6 large ships and 18 small ships. If you're willing to surrender any ship, even an empty one, for us to take over, you can take 1,000 people with you. Tianlong. If you're willing to surrender the Tundra itself, you can take 10,000 people. Hand over Yongi, and you can also take 10,000 people. How about it? Sounds tempting, right? Before this, out of fear of moles watching, even though the regional channel was open, no one dared to speak. But now, after reading those arrogant words and the hidden message behind them, not only did the captains laugh in anger, but even the people who had escaped on the rafts couldn't hold back. They flooded the chat channel, cursing nonstop. Hundreds of thousands of furious messages poured in like a flood. Without the system's moderation, in the blink of an eye, it far surpassed the spam rate of the world channel. From the tragic plight of humanity to the outcome if the aliens gained the upper hand, from the 18 generations of the Ing family's ancestors to the lackeys helping him, no one held back a single word. But Tianlong was dead silent. He didn't say another word. Villains always die from talking too much. Everyone understood, and even he himself knew, just how filthy the thing he was doing right now really was. Therefore, he had to make his move before the game update was complete, before the global chat and private messages were reopened. He had to wipe out everyone here who knew the truth. Forcing all the wooden rafts to return was to throw the defense line into chaos, creating an opening for the aliens to break through. Offering to trade ships for people was to shake the morale of the defenders, breaking the line without firing a single shot. His tricks were despicable, but also incredibly smart, because he hit the biggest weakness in the hearts of the Huaxia people, emotion. On those 4 wooden rafts, the executions didn't actually happen like he claimed, killing one person every second. Aside from a few who resisted and were hacked to death by the aliens behind them, the rest were just being guarded. Their lives weren't in immediate danger. But exactly because of that, the pressure weighing on the captains standing on the Tundra was even greater. No one knew how long Tianlong's 1 life per second threat would stack up before it actually started. And no one knew just how far he'd lose his humanity or what other sick tricks he might pull next. Unless they abandoned those people, no one dared to take that gamble. Let me go make the trade. Get the explosives ready for me. I'll go trade for them myself. Without a moment's hesitation, once they confirmed the people on the rafts were the ones who had just retreated, the deck of the Tundra instantly boiled over. 14 captains, and not a single one backed down. Everyone fought to be the one to steer a small boat and trade for the hostages with the aliens. No one trembled in fear, and no one panicked. In everyone's eyes burned 2 words, fearless. But just as everyone thought of that, an idea simultaneously flashed in their minds. The man sitting on the Tundra right now was Yongi. He would absolutely never accept this slow, agonizing death. He would definitely choose a more decisive path. Wait a minute. Where's Director Lu? Earlier, when everyone was arguing, he just stayed silent and finally issued the order to counter-encircle and break through. This time, seeing that he still hadn't spoken up, the whole group panicked in unison. No way. Director Lu absolutely cannot be the one to make the trade. That's right. Let me go? We can't let Director Lu take the risk. We have to protect Director Lu. If this were a movie, facing conditions like this, the leader would definitely step up and sacrifice himself to buy peace for the majority. But that's just movie logic. In a panic, the 14 men sprinted toward the command room, determined to stop Yongi even if it killed them. Zhang Long took the lead, with Lu Neng close behind. The whole group crammed into the room, packing it so tight that the partitions creaked. Director Lu, you absolutely cannot. Director Lu, The whole group was panting heavily. Before they could even get a good look at his face, they rushed to stop him. But when they steadied themselves and clearly saw Yongi's current state, they all froze in unison. He was smiling. Sitting in the middle of the command room, Yongi, the man who just minutes ago exuded a tragic, heroic aura ready for sacrifice, was now smiling so brightly, he didn't even try to hide it. His eyes stared straight ahead, slightly unfocused. He was clearly looking at the game panel. That sorrowful aura from before had completely vanished, replaced by a fierce vitality. That smile, no matter how you looked at it, was genuine joy from the bottom of his heart. Wait a minute. Could Director Liu have been driven insane by Tianlong? Looks like it to me too. Director Liu has been competitive his whole life. Being humiliated like this, maybe. Director Liu is cursing in the regional channel. Cursing like a machine gun. What? Hearing Lu Ning shout, everyone immediately opened their game panels. Unlike the previous spam waves, this time, because Lu Yongi was cursing so fiercely, everyone else who saw it went dead silent. No one chimed in. On the panel right now, there was only a true one-on-one flame war between Lu Yongi and Tianlong. Scrolling down, you could see all the messages between the two. Lu Yongi at Tianlong. Aren't you afraid the aliens will wring you dry and toss you aside when they're done? Without us, aren't you afraid they'll turn around and deal with a freak like you, wearing human skin but acting like an alien? Tianlong. Old dog Lu, you better pray you live to see tomorrow morning. Even if I die, I'll die after you. Great. You want the ships, right? From now on, Lu Yongi, shut your filthy mouth. Who said I'd trade ships and abandon the people? Do you have any idea how much manpower, resources, and time it takes us to build one ship? Trade for 1,000 people? Keep dreaming. You want the tundra? You want my head? You think I'm an idiot? Lu Yongi, you want to trade? Then show some sincerity. Here's my price, 3,000 people per ship. Agree, and we start trading right now. Tianlong, 3,000 my ass. The highest I'll go is 1,200. Lu Yongi, 1,200 for a small ship is acceptable. But 1,200 for a large ship? You can eat dirt. If we hand over the ships, where are our people supposed to sit? Tianlong, small ships 1,200, large ships 1,500. Deal or no deal? Watching the chat channel turn into a bizarre haggling match between the two sides, the captains all swallowed hard in unison. In that moment, I understood why Lu Yongi was smiling. In a way, Tianlong really was a piece of trash. But in this very moment, he had indirectly saved everyone. As expected of Director Liu, he is an absolute genius. The first time Lu Yongi said there were reinforcements, no one believed him. Everyone thought he was just trying to comfort them. The second time he brought it up, still no one believed him. They just thought he was hypnotizing himself. Even when the ammo supply crates were delivered, people only believed it about 30%. Before Lu Yongi made it clear who the reinforcements were, how they were coming, and when they would arrive. No one was stupid enough to believe that in the chaotic situation of this wasteland, there would be some hard-headed fool willing to step up and help others. But right now, seeing Lu Yongi in the regional channel completely transform into a master of trash talk, firing back at every single sentence without missing a beat against Tianlong, who was jumping mad with anger, all the captains finally believed it. Reinforcements. There really were reinforcements. If there were no reinforcements, why would Lu Yongi waste his breath provoking Tianlong, using haggling tactics to stall for time? With his old personality, the fact that he hadn't charged right at them by now was already showing a lot of restraint. There was no way he'd sit there negotiating numbers. What the captains didn't know was that this stalling tactic was so effective entirely because of an information gap. In their eyes, Lu Yongi had transformed into a cold, decisive captain who dared to rule with an iron fist. But under Tianlong's command in the past, he was an incredibly gentle, democratic guy, the exact type who would readily sacrifice himself to protect others. Add to that the fact that Tianlong had absolutely no idea the tundra had reinforcements, and he himself had zero formal military knowledge. So what did he have to go up against Lu Yongi? While the two sides bickered back and forth, over 10 minutes quietly slipped by, straight to 10:46. There were only 14 minutes left until the next tsunami wave. If they could hold out until then, even if the enemy wanted to start a fight, they'd have to consider how much power they could actually unleash under those conditions. Clearly, Lu Yongi had also factored in that time marker. So right there in the regional channel, he started softening his tone. After a round of haggling, the price for trading people was raised. A small ship could trade for 1,600 people, and a large ship for 2,200. On top of that, Tianlong made an ironclad promise. If Lu Yongi personally sailed the tundra over to surrender, everyone on the 4 rafts would be released immediately. He even promised to hold back the aliens, allowing all the humans a half-hour head start before giving chase. Lu Yongi, if you agree to this price, and since you're holding our people, then I'll have all the wooden rafts return. But you are not to harm a single one of them. Tianlong, as long as you guys come back, I'll take excellent care of the people on those 4 rafts. Lu Yongi, about the trade. There's only a little over 10 minutes before the tsunami hits. I don't want you pulling any tricks. I need to see some sincerity. Let's trade 2 small ships first, so I can see if you keep your word. Tianlong, not a problem. Just send the ships over. Once I take them, I'll release the people immediately. The haggling officially ended after Lu Yongi issued the notice allowing the rafts to return. Even though he felt things were going unusually smoothly, Tianlong thought about it for a moment and happily closed the game panel anyway. During that negotiation, he had indeed been led by the nose a few times by Lu Yongi, but he didn't care. He knew all too well that Lu Yongi absolutely couldn't stand by and watch civilians die without doing anything. And the subsequent events unfolded exactly as he predicted. At 10:55, with only 5 minutes left until the tsunami, the Tundra fleet's already solid defense line shrank by another layer. Lu Nung and Zhang Long, each leading over 50 men, steered 2 small ships straight out of the defense line, heading toward the aliens. Tianlong wasn't in a rush to take them. Instead, he carefully sent people to inspect them inside and out. Only after confirming there was nothing unusual did he feel at ease. The Tundra really wasn't playing any tricks. While he couldn't rule out the possibility that the storage once held weapons, right now, the people in the ships were completely clean. Poor as dirt. Perhaps to show goodwill, after the inspection was done, 3,200 people were immediately selected and sent into the water to swim back the way they came. Compared to the over 20,000 people still being held, this number was just a drop in the bucket. But when they all jumped into the water at once, it still formed a dense sea of people. Before the remaining rafts returned, everyone was forbidden from entering the defense line. That very caution made Tianlong, who was sitting comfortably like a fisherman, feel even more reassured. At the same time, the 11 o'clock tsunami came roaring in. Right at this moment, Lu Yongi spoke up again, saying that before the remaining wooden rafts returned, the fleet didn't have enough space to take in more people. They needed to wait for some room to clear up before continuing the trade. To that request, Tianlong happily nodded in agreement. At 11:06, the first raft returned from afar with a massive commotion. Gongs and drums echoed, flags fluttered, and their momentum soared to the skies. To put the aliens and Tianlong at ease, they even rode the raft in a circle around the alien camp. Then they leisurely headed back near the fleet, pulling the 3,000 people in the water onto the raft. When an alien nearby blurted out, "You call this coming back to die?" Calling it a general's triumphant return makes more sense. Tianlong immediately felt that something was wrong. But unfortunately, his brain and the brains of those aliens just weren't enough to figure it out. No one could understand why the people who were just fighting to the death without retreating had suddenly flipped the script, turning into a military parade showing off their strength. Right after picking up the 3,000 people, another large ship approached through the tsunami, requesting to continue the trade. Any suspicions that had just flared up were immediately dragged back to reality. They had to jump onto the ship and inspect it as usual. It was still that familiar feeling, poor as dirt. It was still the familiar truth, no tricks at all. Watching Zhang Long lead 2,200 people swimming slowly toward the tundra, and seeing 2 more rafts following right behind, intentionally circling the alien camp like they were showing off their strength, I just quietly narrowed my eyes. The game was only truly beginning now. Tianlong clearly felt a sense of unease quietly spreading in his heart, but he couldn't figure out where that feeling was coming from. Even so, he chose to act. Reaching into his shirt, he pulled out an old-fashioned pocket watch. In the old world, whether ancient or modern, when facing an enemy's plot, aside from a battle of wits and strength, humans had no other path. But in this wasteland, where the miraculous game existed, everything could defy normal logic. Opening the watch cover, Tianlong hesitated for a moment, a look of reluctance in his eyes. But after only a second of hesitation, he pulled another item from his inventory, a strand of hair. a strand of Lu Yongyi's hair. He carefully stuck the hair onto the watch face. But the very next second, he cried out in sheer terror. What? Old Lu's lifespan. It's been extended again. 3 hours ago, after the clash between the aliens and the Tundra fleet, Tianlong had tried sticking this hair on once before. Back then, the hands on the watch face spun exactly to 1150 and stopped completely. Based on his experience of using it many times, he knew very well what that meant. At that exact time, Lu Yongyi was guaranteed to die. There was no other outcome. That was why he dared to thump his chest and guarantee the aliens. If I don't kill Lu Yongyi and the Tundra fleet before midnight, I'll offer you my head. But now, watching the watch hand spin over a dozen times without slowing down at all, he was completely dumbfounded. Lu Yongyi's fate had been changed by something. In all the times he had used it before, this had never happened. But the very next second, he snapped back to his senses. He immediately pulled Lu Yongyi's hair off, plucked one of his own, and stuck it onto the watch face. The result was exactly as he feared. The hands only spun a few times before stopping at 4:46 a.m. the next morning. Tianlong put the watch away, carrying a sense of loss mixed with deep unease. Then, he opened the game panel. In the regional channel, he immediately issued a new demand. Tianlong, your trading speed is too slow. I demand that within 10 minutes, the Tundra and Lu Yongyi must come over. Otherwise, I'll start killing people. Tianlong, the first minute, 1 kill per second. The second minute, 2 kills per second. And it'll keep increasing. Old Lu, if you're cold-blooded enough to watch your comrades die one by one, then just keep hiding like a turtle in your defense line. Tianlong, oh, and I almost forgot. I already know all your schemes. If you want to stall for time, go ahead. I'll play along to the end. He didn't know exactly what Lu Yongyi was plotting, but after realizing that fate could be changed, Tianlong chose to flip the board. He believed that if Lu Yongyi's fate could be changed, then his could too. At 11:20, there were exactly 2 minutes left until Tianlong's deadline. In the regional channel, a new message appeared. Lu Yongyi, don't kill anyone. I'll get ready to head over right now. They are innocent. They shouldn't be dragged into this. That answer, as if pondered for a very long time, carried a heavy, sorrowful weight. Just a few minutes later, the Tundra and the other large ships simultaneously broke away from the formation. In that moment, even though the sea outside was still howling in the tsunami, rumbling like thunder, not far away, on the rafts where the humans were being held captive, as well as on the alien side, everyone could clearly hear it. The wailing, the unison shouts echoing from the Tundra fleet. Director Lu, don't go. We might as well fight them to the death. That was the fierce cry of the survivors in the fleet. Let me go? I want to make the trade. 1 Lu Yongyi's life for 20,000 people. I've lived enough for 1 lifetime. That was Lu Yongyi's voice, blaring from 3 loudspeakers placed across the ship. Director Lu, I can't let you go? Zhang Long, if you don't let me go, you're pushing me into dishonor. Even if I live, it won't mean anything. Director Lu, we can't let you sacrifice yourself. Sobbing, let me go. Let me go make the trade. That chaotic shouting was like a tragic, heroic play. Hearing it, the hostages locked on the wooden rafts were all overwhelmed with choking sorrow. Director Lu wants to sacrifice himself to save us. He clearly could have lived on. He clearly could have gone to the new continent with everyone. Yet he chose the worst possible path. Even though he was laughing like a maniac earlier, it must have been because he was driven mad by anger, unable to hold back his emotions. Just like the people on the ships, the more the hostages thought about it, the more their hearts broke. A few seconds later, their emotions exploded. They cried and screamed, endlessly begging Lu Yongyi to abandon them and live on. Scream. Scream louder. If they don't wail, how is Lu Yongyi going to step out? Unexpectedly, Tianlong, standing above them, didn't stop them at all. On the contrary, he even nodded smugly, signaling the aliens below not to interfere. Only the truly immoral could use morality to manipulate others so masterfully. With a normal person, this trick would only have a 30% chance of success. But with Lu Yongyi, he was absolutely certain it was 100%. At 11:33, the Tundra officially broke away from the formation, quietly advancing toward the alien front lines. The hostages on the rafts were still crying and screaming nonstop. Some had cried to the point of exhaustion, their voices hoarse, unable to form words. They looked toward the tundra, toward the bow of the ship, where Lu Yongi was standing. Even though his back was slightly hunched, and his face wore a smile of liberation, in their hearts, Lu Yongi, with his mortal body, stood on par with the gods. On par with Sushin. Quiet down. Lu Yongi has come here himself. As compatriots, I won't make things difficult for you. Once we finish inspecting the tundra, you can all leave. At 11:40, the tundra had closed in on the front lines. Seeing Lu Yongi's familiar old face at the bow, Tianlong was visibly overjoyed, shouting as he stepped down. He was eager to inspect the ship, eager to deal with Lu Yongi. But he didn't expect the man standing at the bow to flash an incredibly bizarre smile, partly smug, partly like he was watching a clown show. In those eyes, there wasn't a shred of fear, nor any helplessness. Before he could even open his mouth to mock him, from behind, from the fleet's defense line, shouts suddenly erupted like explosions tearing through the sky and sea. Thank you, Tianlong. Thank you, Tianlong. You're a good guy. You really are. Thank me? Thank me for what? Thank me for releasing the hostages? His mind still spinning, Tianlong hadn't even grasped the situation when, the very next second, the hostages on the rafts all simultaneously changed their expressions. They burst out laughing and thanking him profusely like professional actors. Tianlong's face instantly drastically changed. A fierce premonition surged up. He hurriedly summoned the game panel and accessed the regional channel. The network speed wasn't affected at all. The regional channel loaded as smoothly as ever. But when the latest message appeared, it no longer bore the name Lu Yongi. Instead, it was a name that had haunted even his worst nightmares. Tianlong felt as if all his strength had been drained. His legs went soft, and he slumped to the ground, unable to stand back up. The ultimate clown turned out to be him. It was himself. This world at the brink of destruction, just how vast is it? The distance from here back to Earth, just how far is it? Ever since humanity fell from modern civilized society into this desolate wasteland, those two questions had been raised countless times on the World Channel. Every time, they sparked a boiling wave of discussion. If it weren't for the chat system provided by the game, humanity might have needed 20, 30, or even 50 years to re-establish a communication network similar to modern times. The internet shortened the geographical distance between people, but at the same time, it exposed and stimulated the darkest desires in their hearts. In the game's chat box, every single day, someone was scammed, betrayed, or ambushed. The attackers would arrogantly declare, "I tracked you down through the net. Bite me." The victims would scream, "Just you wait. Let's see if I don't catch you." Normally, in such harsh conditions, anyone hearing that would just treat it as a joke. But for Tianlong, it was different. He couldn't laugh. He had never told anyone that. 2 months ago, he had a video call with a man revered by humanity as Sushin. And that very man had personally threatened to hunt him down. Even from the family members following him, he kept this a strict secret. Who could have expected that an ordinary guy who only rose to fame 2 months ago through sheer luck could now skyrocket with the speed of a meteor tearing through the sky? Who could have expected how much courage it would take to withstand the panic and pressure of being targeted by someone like that? Tianlong was never some profound figure, nor did he have any terrifying schemes. Aside from having zero morals, he was no different from a village bully in civilized times, only knowing how to rely on numbers to oppress and bully others. So, once he realized that all it took was one word from Sushin for him to be utterly ruined in human society, he immediately chose the only path left, surrendering to the aliens. But now, sitting slumped on the ground amidst the thank yous echoing across heaven and earth, he was doomed. Time rewound to 21 minutes ago, when Tianlong gradually saw through everyone's stalling tactics and made his demand, trading the hostages for Lu Yongi and the tundra. The entire area fell silent. According to Lu Yongi's original plan, the stalling time had already hit its target, even exceeding expectations. As long as they held the line, the fleet would achieve an unprecedented victory. As long as they waited for reinforcements to arrive, the aliens and the traitors would be caught in one fell swoop. But life is unpredictable. The timing of Tianlong's move was just too precise. Say no more. It's time. Let me go. We have to keep stalling. By every minute we can. We must ensure the hostage's safety. Without overthinking it, Lu Yongi immediately stood up, smiled, and raised his right fist high. In an instant, the crowd erupted. Everyone had already guessed he would make this choice, but when he actually did it, no one could stop themselves from trembling. Director Lu, no? How can there be a battle without sacrifice? If we lose you, we won't be able to hold out either. That's right. Trusting a piece of trash like Tianlong? We're better off fighting to the death. If you go, what if something goes wrong with the reinforcements? Wouldn't you be getting hundreds of thousands killed just to save a few thousand? Director Lu, please don't. Not a single person agreed to let Lu Yongi board the tundra and march to his death. On the deck, all the captains erupted in anger. Up to this point, the tundra fleet had already sacrificed 240,000 people, 20 times the number of hostages currently being held. Letting hundreds of thousands die in vain for a few thousand, leaving the remaining tens of thousands without their pillar, that's not wise. The battle hasn't even reached a do-or-die state, yet tying up our main force and handing it to the enemy, giving our supreme commander to the traitors, that's not brave. Everyone practically exhausted their words, trying to bind Lu Yongi with logic and emotion. But just like before, he didn't stop them. He just smiled quietly, his gaze looking far off toward the end of the sea. Resting his hands on the tundra's railing, letting the blood-scented wind blow past him, he chuckled softly and said, I'm getting old. Thought I could carry it all, but who knew I almost couldn't handle it. Our reinforcements won't be late. None of us have to die. Oh right. Weren't you all always curious about who the reinforcements are? He didn't say it out loud, only mouthing the words. But just from that lip movement alone, for the people who had lived in this wasteland, that name was more familiar than the name of their own shelters. No way. How could our reinforcements be? Holy shit. Director Lu, are you serious? Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit. Looking at the captains and sailors below showing absolute shock, Lu Yongi just gave a slight nod. Reinforcements from Sushin were an incredibly potent drug. At a critical moment, it was no different from a shot of adrenaline, making people explode with vitality. But if he said it too early, letting the enemy and the traitors find out, it would become a disaster. Only by announcing it at the exact right time could it achieve an effect far beyond expectations. And now, there was only a little over half an hour left until the transition period. Lu Yongi believed that the opportunity he had been waiting for so long had finally arrived. This world was never meant to be this dark. The beasts of the wasteland had become too arrogant, to the point where humans no longer dared to swing a blade at their heads. But today, everything would change. This world was never meant to be like this. It was time. A true revolution was needed. When the news that the reinforcements were actually Sushin was confirmed, this time, not a single captain objected. Nor did anyone doubt Lu Yongi's decision anymore. As for the warriors on the wooden rafts below, they only knew that reinforcements were coming, not that it was Sushin himself. But that didn't affect their acting talent in the slightest. When hundreds of thousands of people all played their parts in a play, even dragging the hostages in to cooperate, every message popping up in the regional channel, every thank you they spoke, was so sincere that no one suspected a thing. Congratulations to the players in Regional Channel 6732. Your channel has been officially joined by a player holding the #1 paired title. Welcome the King of Acid Rain, the Emperor of Blizzards, Su-Imo, to this regional channel. Powerful player detected entering the channel. Activating regional entry effect. Cooldown, 10 days. Congratulations to all players in the region for receiving, plus 100% stamina recovery for 12 hours. Congratulations to all players in the region for receiving, plus 100 disaster points. From the very beginning, out of fear of exposing his whereabouts, Su-Imo had never entered any regional channel. So, technically speaking, aside from the area around the basin, this was the first time I officially appeared in a regional channel since the Great Tide happened. I didn't say anything, but that regional entry effect alone was enough to say it all. This name, once it appeared in the wasteland, carried only one meaning. All darkness ends here. Tianlong, you can't escape. Once Sushin arrives, a traitorous lackey like you won't have anywhere to hide. You'll only have death. But the people following you, As long as you bring them out to save the hostages, I can guarantee they'll be spared. How you decide is up to you. I've said my piece, and I won't show any mercy. As Tianlong collapsed helplessly on the ground, a sailor from the tundra rushed down, relaying Lu Yongi's exact words. It wasn't that Lu Yongi didn't know how to use tricks, he just often chose not to. Like this time, the moment he made his move, the effect was explosive. The over 300 people following Tianlong woke up as if from a dream. Without a second thought, they all lunged toward him. Lu Yongi's words didn't just give them a new path, they pointed out the only way to survive right now. Boss, Sushin is here. If you're gonna run, run now. Staying here means death. Cousin, you set this whole thing up. Now that Sumo is here, if he investigates. Tianlong, just go. We might still have a chance to live, but you, brothering, why don't you sacrifice yourself a little? When a wall falls, everyone pushes. When a tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Those who could run, ran. Those who could hide, hid. Seeing Tianlong so pathetic, none of the warriors who once followed him found it strange. I had made it very clear, traitors to humanity must die. And he was the ringleader. No matter what he did now, he couldn't escape. Only by dying right now, dying before I arrived, could he perhaps leave a little excuse for the people following him, that they were forced, that they had no choice. In that very moment, the people who used to respectfully call him brothering or cousin showed their true colors. Tianlong staggered, trying to stand up, but before he could steady himself, he collapsed again. Tianlong, make a decision. The aliens don't know anything yet. If you don't go now, it'll be too late. Once they find out, it'll be too late even if you want to retreat. In the crowd, two middle-aged men exchanged a glance. Immediately, four burly young men stepped forward, kindly, helping Tianlong up. Two on the left, two on the right, all strong young men. The moment they lifted him, he was dragged along like a dirty rag, completely powerless to resist. The proof of loyalty Lu Yongi mentioned was rescuing all the hostages. With over 300 people, that was too hard. So they chose an easier substitute, Tianlong. Heh, you think catching me means that Brat Sumo will let you off? You have no idea what kind of person he is. He's a hypocrite, a tyrant. He kills people like flies. He doesn't give a damn about your lives. Besides, he's here. Where else can you run? The surging anger made him cough violently, spitting out a mouthful of blood. His face was as pale as paper. In that moment, he aged a dozen years. Pinned tightly by the four young men, he didn't resist or try to run. He just quietly raised his hand, pointing toward the sky, which was slightly brighter than before. His gaze was complex, partly mocking, partly expectant. The direction he was looking wasn't the fleet's encampment, nor was it the aliens' main base. But strangely enough, it perfectly aligned with where Lu Yongi was staring unblinkingly with tear-filled eyes, where hundreds of thousands of survivors on the tundra were kneeling, where the aliens were starting to realize something and panicking, where the warriors who were just about to drag him out as proof of loyalty were now tumbling over in fear. All eyes, at the exact same time, focused on one direction. Right at the cusp of day and night, 12 long streaks of light appeared in the distant sky, trailing brilliant tails like Halley's Comet. Hurtling down, the aliens didn't know what they were. But humanity knew. The survivors knew. That was justice. It was the thing that tore through the darkness, bringing the light of hope. Tianlong knew too. It was a cleansing. It was the wave that would wash away all humiliation and betrayal. Boom, 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 boom. Supersonic sonic booms echoed. Rings of shockwaves coiled around the streaks of light, creating brilliant swirling clouds in the dead of night. High above, the 12 streaks of light plummeted at terrifying speeds. In just a few seconds, they magnified 5 times in everyone's eyes. The burning light was blinding, but right now, no one shied away from that warmth. The sea roared, the fierce waves surged. But compared to the 12 shooting stars crashing down, everything suddenly seemed trivial. Ignoring the aliens' reactions, all the survivors simultaneously dropped to the rafts, to the decks, pressing their bodies tightly against the wood. Soft chants echoed in the wind. Heaven bless Huaxia. Heaven bless humanity. At first, it was sparse. Then, as hundreds of thousands of people chanted in unison, the sound reverberated across the sky like a bell, shaking the very souls of every creature in the area. The aliens, who were regrouping, craned their necks to look at the sky. A few leaders, as if guessing something, screamed amidst the crowd. But in the chaos, only those standing close could faintly hear, Lion King Chemo. Livestream. Ultimate weapon. We're all going to die? It's Sue. We've been tricked. Tricked about what? The ordinary aliens had empty heads, and the leaders, even if they wanted to sound the alarm through the regional channel, were powerless to do so. Between confusion and helplessness, that bewildered look was their final expression before being vaporized from the world. Boom. Rumble. 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 R1 is a rocket, not a missile. As its fuel gradually depleted, its speed skyrocketed. From an initial Mach 2, the final stretch neared Mach 4. That meant each one was hurtling down at a speed of 1,300 meters per second. At that speed, before anyone could react, the 12 streaks of light slammed straight into the ground. With the direct support of the fire control system, Su-Mo didn't aim the 12 rockets for maximum destruction, but to create maximum shock. Only 5 rockets landed directly in the center of the alien forces. The other 7 exploded on the fringes, wiping out a portion of their troops. But just that alone was enough to kill over 70,000 aliens on the spot. Before this, to wipe out 60,000 aliens, humanity had to pay the price of over 200,000 lives. Once gathered with a sky-high morale of 120,000 troops, now, after the earth-shattering explosions, the aliens had less than 30,000 capable of fighting. The shockwaves even multiplied the tsunami's intensity by 4. Any alien that wasn't prepared and stood near the blast zones was flipped by the waves, slamming straight into the sea surface like hitting concrete. They died on the spot, without even a chance to struggle. In contrast, humanity had already dropped down, pressing their bodies tightly against the rafts and decks. Even though the chains between the ships shook violently, everyone remained completely safe. The flames from the explosions spread across the sea, setting the aliens' wooden ships on fire, sparking a secondary blaze. The scene looked like a blazing sunset. The battle cry seemed to echo right in everyone's souls. Brothers, charge. The time to beat the drowning dogs is here. Surrender, and you won't be killed. Drop your weapons, and you won't be killed. Our people don't run around. Squat down and cover your heads. Watch out for stray bullets. The blast zones were in the aliens' rear, while the front lines, where the tundra and the hostage ships were stationed, were barely affected. Even the over 300 warriors following Tianlong, who were thrown against obstacles because they didn't brace themselves in time, only suffered superficial wounds. Right now, hearing Lu Yongi roaring through the loudspeakers, they finally raised their heads and were stunned. From inside the tundra, where everyone thought there was no one left, hundreds of figures suddenly poured out. And what made others tremble the most was that they were all holding guns. Bang, bang, rat-tat-tat. 3 types of weapon sounds rang out at the same time, strangely blending into a metallic symphony of death that tore up the sea. The remaining aliens on the ships, before they could even run, instantly became live targets in the hail of bullets. The humans stayed low, while they took the full brunt of the firestorm. After just 2 volleys, the ships from the tundra's direction advanced in unison. This time, it was a true counterattack by the survivors. Battle cries echoed. The ships charged like a pack of starving wolves catching a scent. People dropped their bows for spears, drew iron sabers, and swung swords. The newly rescued hostages also immediately drew their weapons, forming the vanguard. Under the covering fire from the tundra, the aliens, who hadn't even recovered from the meteor strikes, were rushed by the frenzied humans and slaughtered. Morale soared. The momentum was overwhelming. Even if the aliens were enhanced, at this moment, they were no different from chicks waiting to be butchered. They ran, humans chased. They surrendered, humans captured them. No one escaped the purge. In just 1 hour, the Tundra fleet only lost about 500 people, and in exchange, they wiped out over 10,000 aliens. 2,000 terrified aliens surrendered. Another 3,000 scattered and fled. Less than 15,000 remained, huddled behind a temporary defense line, desperately trying to hold off humanity's devastating tidal wave of an attack. And what about humanity? The ammo on the ships was, conveniently, almost completely depleted. The battle just now had drained every last bullet. Facing the aliens' final defense line, Lu Yongi wasn't in a rush at all. Under his calm command, all the survivors quietly formed an encirclement, trapping the aliens tightly in the middle. Those who were once the hunters had now become the prey. They looked around, looking at the once weak humans now tightly surrounding them, and understood that they had lost. In another direction, Tianlong and the over 300 warriors following him didn't escape either. The moment the fighting broke out, they tried to slip away. But Lu Neng and Zhang Long, carrying boiling hatred, led 500 men and surrounded them in the blink of an eye. In terms of numbers, Tianlong's side seemed to still have the ability to resist. But with just one sentence from Zhang Long, spoken lightly face to face, except for the Ying family, the rest of you can be spared the death penalty, but punishment is unavoidable. Hand over half your supplies, and you get to live. Just like that, they immediately tied their own hands and surrendered without a hint of resistance. In the exact moment they were tied up, when Zhang Long furiously drew his gun and shot dead 2 men who had tortured hostages, the over 300 people finally woke up. We've been tricked. Yeah, I lied. So what? Have you ever seen anyone keep a promise to a bunch of animals? Zhang Long shot a disdainful glance at the resentful eyes that were slowly turning to despair. He gave a cold chuckle, signaled his teammates to stand guard, then grabbed Tianlong by the collar with one hand and marched straight onto the tundra. Director Lu, I brought the old dog Tianlong back. At the bow of the ship, Lu Yongi still stood silently, looking toward the alien front lines ahead. Hearing this, he didn't turn his head, nor did he answer. Zhang Long laughed and threw the hogtied Tianlong onto the deck with a heavy thud. Tianlong lay there, as if he had accepted his fate. Despite the pain, his eyes stared blankly ahead, empty and soulless. But pretending only goes so far. Less than 5 minutes later, seeing Lu Yongi still indifferent, not even bothering to glance at him, Tianlong went crazy and screamed, "Lu Yongi, this is all your fault. You're the one who killed them, not me. If it weren't for Qiu Xingho, what right would you have to be the head of the Tundra camp? The people should revere me. They should idolize me." His words were a mess, his voice frantic. His bloodshot eyes, full of resentment, were glued to Lu Yongi's back. Even though the ropes dug into him until he bled, he still thrashed around like a mad beast. But Lu Yongi remained silent. He didn't argue back, didn't turn his head. There was only the mocking laughter of the crew on the deck. As for him, it was as if he were just listening to the wind, still calmly observing the distant sea. Arguing with a madman is just lowering yourself. The best way is to ignore him. Tianlong screamed until he was exhausted, panting like a wild beast, and finally collapsed. Out of breath already? I thought you could scream for another 5 minutes. The voice carried a hint of a smile. Only then did Lu Yongi turn around. As soon as he spoke, laughter rang out across the deck. The heavy atmosphere of war suddenly lightened quite a bit. Honestly, Tianlong, even though Xingho turned you into a eunuch right now, I, Lu Yongi, still have to thank you from the bottom of my heart. If it weren't for you, if you hadn't helped us stall for time, humanity might have lost 2/3 of its survivors today. Maybe even I would be dead. I'm grateful to you. Not just me, but everyone is grateful to you. You've done countless stupid things in your life, but this last one, you did very well. Lu Yongi handed his binoculars to the sailor next to him, his expression unusually gentle. Then he slowly bent down and personally helped the furious Tianlong up. When a sailor brought a chair, he even gently sat him down. Kill me, Lu Yongi. If you have the guts, kill me. What do you get out of humiliating me? Even if I die, I won't let you off. He gritted his teeth, forcing out every word, his anger burning fiercely. But Lu Yongi just shook his head slightly, his smile unchanged. Kill you? No, I won't kill you. I can guarantee that on this ship, in this entire fleet, no one will kill you. Because your life belongs to him. After speaking, Lu Yongi raised his hand to signal. The sailors immediately understood. They carried Tianlong, chair and all, and secured him at the very front of the bow. From that position, a full 360-degree view opened up. Not a single ripple, not a single ray of light in the distance could escape his eyes. The great battle was over. Time ticked to 12:56 a.m. Sitting at the bow, Tianlong knew very well that what awaited him wouldn't take long. When the clock struck 1, and 4 more minutes passed, at the edge of the horizon, a new sun appeared. A brilliant golden-orange light flared up, almost setting half the sky on fire. The wind howled in fierce gusts, as if trying to tear the air apart. Compared to the 12 shooting stars plummeting at 4,000 kilometers per hour, this thing approaching at only 180 kilometers per hour seemed slow. But not a single pair of eyes could look away. In front of the aliens, in front of heaven and earth, even Lu Yongi, even all the survivors, everyone dropped to one knee. A shout rang out. At first, it was just a whisper, then it quickly turned into a roaring wave across the sea. Welcome, Sushin. From ancient times to now, Huaxiao heroes have always upheld the spirit of sacrifice and valued the greater good. But in this desolate apocalypse, pure ideals aren't enough to save the world. What humanity needs is someone who can step up and lead. Someone who brings hope. In the dead of night, that massive sun shone everywhere. The warm golden-orange light swept away the darkness, illuminating every face. As the roar of the speeding ship gradually slowed, countless curious eyes looked up. Everyone wanted to know what kind of battleship Sushin was riding and what kind of miracle he would bring. Then, a true miracle happened. In just the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of people simultaneously jumped up in shock. The calm sea before them seemed to be torn in half, as if struck by the sea god's trident. From that rift, the light source from earlier slowly rose. Within the golden-orange halo, no one could see clearly inside. They only saw 2 familiar Chinese characters floating, pushing the seawater away. Many people unconsciously read them aloud. And the moment they understood the meaning of those 2 words, the hearts of all the Huaxiao people present felt like they were squeezed tight, then exploded all at once. When disaster struck, 12 shooting stars shook heaven and earth. When despair dragged on, the sun of hope appeared. Absolutely miraculous. This is Sushin. This is Huaxiao's Sushin. This time, he still didn't let anyone down. This time, he still stepped up to lead everyone through the tribulation. Less than 10 seconds later, the halo gradually dissipated. When the battleship inside was revealed, everyone felt it was strangely natural. Cheers echoed across the sea. Even though they couldn't clearly see the person standing at the bow, just seeing that faint silhouette was enough to steady everyone's hearts again. As for me, Sumo, standing at the bow of the Hope at that moment, my emotions were also surging wildly. Gong, heading north 29. That ship over there. Close in immediately. Avoid collision at all costs. Just glancing over the surrounding formation, with my superior vision, I immediately pinpointed the tundra's location. The ship that had appeared in Lu Yongi's video, once majestic with its massive battleship mast, now had a broken mast. The hull was mottled with dark gray blood. Just looking at it was enough to tell how brutal the battle had been. Fortunately, I made it in time. Captain Lu Yongi, the battleship Hope is approaching the tundra, requesting to dock. Captain Sumo, welcome aboard. The tundra is ready. Please approach from North 3. 2 consecutive messages appeared in the regional channel. Witnessed by hundreds of thousands of people, this meeting was etched into everyone's hearts. This wasn't just a meeting between 2 captains. It was the turning point of a new era for humanity. Under the firelight illuminating the sky, the Hope glided smoothly across the sea. 1 minute and 19 seconds later, the 2 ships closed in. Under Gong's control, the Hope dropped anchor. 2 steel cables were lowered. The sailors who had lived on Earth immediately recognized their purpose. It only took 2 minutes to secure them. Right after, a figure in black armor appeared by the Hope's railing. Under everyone's astonished gaze, I hooked a zipline onto the steel cable, then swooped straight down like a falcon. Quick, bring the mats out. There's no time. Everyone, get up there. Use your bodies to catch him. We absolutely cannot let an accident happen. Lu Nung roared, and the sailors were about to rush forward. But in midair, I spun my body, the movement as graceful as martial arts, perfectly canceling out all the falling momentum, and landed flawlessly on the deck. That landing was so spectacular that the entire deck erupted in relieved laughter. This is Sushin. This is humanity's #1 god of war. No one rushed forward in a frenzy. All the sailors just quietly, simultaneously raised their right hands in a crisp salute. That was the highest gesture of respect, and also the most solemn expression of gratitude. Every pair of eyes, brimming with emotion, looked at the only two people in the ranks who didn't salute. One was Lu Yongi, which didn't surprise anyone. As for the second person, before anyone could react, I gently took off my helmet. The face revealed was almost absurdly young, yet so familiar that it made everyone's hearts clench at the exact same moment. And then, the person standing opposite me didn't say a word. She rushed straight into my arms and hugged me tight. Brother, sobbing, why are you only here now? They killed so many people. They took hostages. They almost. What? That sobbing, mixed with the word brother, made every sailor on the deck choke up. The words they were about to say instantly got stuck in their throats. Wait a minute. What is going on? Aside from Lu Yongi and Shun Ku standing in the back, who seemed to have figured something out, everyone else was dumbfounded. Right before their eyes, the Sushin renowned across the wasteland not only didn't push the girl away, but wrapped his arms tightly around her. I'm here. Don't worry anymore. From now on, no one will dare bully you again. I promise you. At the title ruined before, even though we only met for a brief moment, I still thought I could keep my cool when we reunited. But right now, actually holding my sister, clearly feeling her trembling sobs against my chest, I completely broke down. Ignoring the weird looks from everyone around us, I just gently patted her back, soothing her with a soft voice. Time seemed to slow down. Amidst the danger-filled wasteland, this moment made it feel like we were back on Earth. Safe and peaceful. A long time later, when Suchan finally stopped crying, she pulled away from my embrace and hid behind my back. I chuckled softly, took 2 steps forward, and took the initiative to extend my hand. A pleasure to meet you, Director Lu. The pleasure is mine, Sushin. Under everyone's gaze, 2 hands carrying the warmth of over 30 degrees clasped tightly together. A handshake that wasn't just a formality, but a transfer of faith. In this moment, Sushin, the man once viewed as a god, became incredibly approachable because of family and loyalty. A young, genuine, emotional person, making everyone feel an unusual warmth. At 1:33 a.m., there was still about half an hour until the game update. The embers from the 12 rockets were still smoldering. Smoke rising from the alien ships made the sky hazy. The sea was dyed red with blood. Silhouettes hurried back and forth. The young men were busy clearing the battlefield, picking up floating materials and fighting over treasure chests with beaming faces. The older folks split into 2 groups. One group repaired the ships, while the other collected the bodies of those who had sacrificed themselves. The air still reeked of gunpowder, but the battleship Hope had now welcomed its first guests since the day it was launched. Led by Su Chan, followed by Shen Ku, Lu Neng, Zhang Long, and the 26 lucky surviving captains. They were like country folks visiting the city for the first time. Everything they looked at was strange, everything they touched was new. At first, they were almost scared to death by Moore's overenthusiasm, but once they calmed down, they quickly got used to it. After that, acting like a proper host, Moore led everyone on a tour of every nook and cranny below deck, so proficiently that it left everyone amazed. Meanwhile, at the bow, standing next to me, Lu Yongi finally let out a long breath, looking like a massive weight had been lifted off his shoulders. Suemo, I really have to thank you for arriving in time with reinforcements this time. Otherwise, out of our 100,000+ people, there might not have been many survivors left. I smiled and shook my head. Old Lu, you're being too polite. Actually, I'm the one who should be thanking you. Thanks to you taking care of my sister. Without you holding the line, this fleet would have probably collapsed a long time ago. Lu Yongi burst out laughing. Haha, hearing you say that makes me feel pretty damn good. He was a righteous man. We had interacted quite a few times before, so our conversation flowed naturally, like old friends reuniting after a long time. The matter with Su Chan was also smoothly wrapped up because of this. The moment he recognized me, Lu Yongi understood the whole story. And this didn't weigh on his mind. On the contrary, it brought him an unprecedented sense of relief. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Since the second disaster, through all our collaborations, even though the Tundra had made contributions, compared to what I brought to the table, it was still too small. especially the later weapon support. It was like a pie falling from the sky, which always kept him on edge. But now he understood, and from that, he firmly believed that as long as the tundra didn't cross any lines, the relationship between the two sides could definitely be maintained long-term. Even if there were no more freebies like before, for the tundra, it was still a golden opportunity. Oh right, Sumo, Lu Yongi continued. You mentioned before that you wanted to trigger a massive war between the three races to end the final tsunami, right? So how can we help? He said this while running his hand along the cold steel railing of the Hope, a gleam of anticipation in his eyes. I just smiled, looking at him with a hidden meaning. Help? You guys can't help. Seeing his surprised look, I raised my hand and pointed toward the alien camp in the distance, grinning widely. Only they can help me. Ever since the Hope docked stably, the alien camp, now down to only about 15,000 troops, had started showing signs of minor chaos. But compared to the earth-shaking cheers of the human survivors, it was nothing. In everyone's minds, they were already fish in a barrel. The outcome was set. The only difference was whether they died early or died late. At this moment, seeing me still smiling at the aliens, Lu Yongi just rubbed his hands together and didn't say anything else. Human moods are contagious. Ever since I got to hug my sister again, my whole body seemed to completely relax. And those standing nearby were gradually affected too. It felt like returning to Earth, being able to breathe a sigh of relief and peace. And that feeling of peace, for the people living in this desolate wasteland, was truly, incredibly precious. As for Lu Yongi, he never had any grand ambitions. As long as there was someone tall enough standing in front to hold up the sky, he was perfectly willing to stand in the back and take a little loss. At 150, when the captains were led back to the deck by Moore, Sumo clapped his hands and called Lily over. Take a few people down to the storage. Bring the entire sound system and microphones up to the deck for me. If you want to do something big, you need background music to match. For all of humanity, there are some things language can't fully convey, but music can. Combined with the floodlights that had never been turned on aboard the battleship Hope, I believe that the crazy plan I had been preparing for days, once initiated, would officially set all of humanity in this wasteland on the path to revival. Sumo, I'll take my people and head back first. The game is about to update. If something goes wrong and there's no one to keep things stable below deck, it'll be a huge mess. After we get through this disaster, my side still has a lot of good stuff. When the time comes, I'll have to treat you to a proper drink. Old Lou, with me here, you can rest easy. I shook hands with each of them, seeing off the captains who had fought on the front lines. Seeing the eager, joyful looks clearly written on their faces, I laughed out loud. It felt no different from a celebrity meeting their fans. In the civilized era, it was truly difficult for an ordinary person to stand out. But in this wild world, as long as there was an opportunity, anyone could touch the peak they never dared to dream of before. After seeing everyone off, with only a few minutes left until the update, I still wasn't in a rush. I leisurely led Su-chan up to the third floor and stepped into the captain's quarters. Just stay in here for a bit. No matter what happens outside, don't come out. Su-chan blinked. Are you planning to do something big again? Last time you slaughtered a god, I even saw it on the game's live stream. It was so badass I almost fainted. She chattered nonstop, from praising how cool I was to telling me how, back at the tundra, everyone from 18-year-old girls to 40-year-old women were swooning over me. I glared at her. So what was that about calling me handsome back then, huh? Su-chan blushed, looked away, then excitedly suggested, a big shot needs a catchphrase. How can you build up the hype without one? I understood the mindset of the younger generation. They loved special effects, flashy lights, and explosive hype. But for an old 90s guy like me, forget it. I've decided to sing a song. Su-chan's eyes went wide. Holy crap. Seeing my sister's dumbfounded look, I smiled in satisfaction, pulled my helmet down, pushed open the door to the captain's quarters, and strode confidently forward. So what if I sing a dead meme song? Who says you can't sing if you have a bad voice? I'm going all in. 3 minutes later, I was lounging comfortably on a beach chair at the bow. Amidst the familiar dinging of the system, the update bar jumped to 99.9%. I immediately opened the game interface. The number of creatures was fluctuating wildly, completely different from previous seasons. The reason was obvious. The players this year were too overpowered, to the point where the rules set by the game were starting to show a series of logical flaws. Just this naval battle event alone caused a sudden drop in the number of creatures. It was clearly a massive bug. It hadn't even been 2 months. According to the old rules, when humanity's strength reached the death threshold, the ocean version would be activated. But in reality, humans hadn't even made it past the compliance stage. They were poor as dirt, and their main transport was still wooden rafts from the game core. Meanwhile, the alien strength had practically stagnated. Over 80% of them were affected by biological suppressants, and in 3 months, they would definitely turn into uncontrollable monsters. As a result, the event hit its conclusion before it even really started. This update clearly far exceeded the system's predictions, which was why the game suddenly updated without warning. I vaguely felt in my heart that version 3.0 would definitely be a massive turning point for the entire wasteland. Was it a chance to keep living, or was it destruction, resetting everything back to the starting point? When the progress bar finally completed, the update interface vanished. I immediately checked the notifications. Oh ho, they're really going big this time. Just as I guessed, this damn game is up to its tricks again. A series of system notifications rang out, piercing the ears. Line after line appeared, making me frown seriously. Current extinction rate detected to far exceed expectations. The game will automatically adjust. The third version update will activate within 10 days. Version 3.0, True Survival, officially begins. Projected extinction rate for the next 100 days. Humanity 96.8%, alien races 99.9%. All creatures are granted voting rights to intervene in the upcoming 7 disasters. Severe flaws detected in game rules. Compensation rewards will be issued based on contribution levels. Congratulations to human players Su MO contribution level ranked number 1 among all creatures. Please check your messages to claim your reward. 6 consecutive notifications, like 6 rapid bell tolls, clearly declared one thing. The game had officially admitted to a severe flaw in its operating mechanics. This version 3.0 update was both a bug fix and a new test. In less than 100 days, the extinction rate for both humanity and the aliens had exceeded 95%. In other words, the system no longer wanted to force everyone to keep rushing forward. However, it still hadn't completely given up on the chance to reset the current creatures. Perhaps because of the bug discovery event, the game temporarily granted the remaining creatures in the wasteland one last chance to survive. But when my eyes, Sumo's eyes, stopped on the words True Survival, and then saw a whole slew of major and minor functions locked, restricted, or starting to charge fees, an incredibly ominous premonition instantly welled up in my heart. Without hesitation, I focused my mind, and the game interface moved smoothly under my control. Just like the introduction to the ocean version before, this time the system only released a short trailer, without any explanation. The feeling of unease grew clearer by the second. I put on a serious face and decisively chose to preview it. Compared to last time, when it beat around the bush telling the story of the sea god, this time the system got straight to the point. Survival. Return to the origin. Creatures tread upon mud and wilderness, struggling between hope and despair. Under natural disasters, only an indomitable will is the final shield. Every word, every sentence rang out like an incantation before unleashing an ultimate move. The amount of information hidden behind it was so heavy it was suffocating. Right after that chant, the system began to announce the new changes one by one. After the update to the True Survival version, the majority of interface functions will be restricted, suspended, or monetized. World and private chat channels are closed. Regional channel requires a level 4 shelter and charges a fee. Disaster prevention channel also charges a fee. Trading market is suspended. Common item crafting is removed. Rare quality and above requires a fee. Inventory storage is charged according to the rules. Common item appraisal is canceled. Rare and above charges a fee. New disasters will no longer adjust based on creature density, but will have a fixed cycle. 7 days for minor disasters, 14 days for moderate, 28 days for major. You can vote to choose the order, but each choice will be locked for the next 3 cycles. Disaster intensity depends on geographical location, 100% on the new continent, decreasing the further away you are. New rewards, maps, structures, ruins, and environments will only exist on the new continent. All weapons, tools, and armor in the game will be charged according to the rules. After 30 days, the shelter positioning mechanism will be activated, restricting the range of activity. Exceeding the time limit will result in a core reset and the risk of being captured. These changes completely overturned the old version. Coupled with the comprehensive monetization mechanics, it made version 3.0 a true nightmare. Even the trailer only stayed at a general level, without giving any specific details. Before I could even finish analyzing it, the sky suddenly changed color. Countless brilliant, ethereal auroras illuminated the entire night. The scene was exactly like when the false god Tianlong descended. The sky seemed to be torn open like a stage curtain. But this time, it wasn't just one rift, but 5 massive rifts, evenly divided across the east, north, and center. The terrifying anomaly was so massive that it could be clearly seen from anywhere in the wasteland. Below, the survivors in the Tundra fleet, having recovered from the shock of the update, all looked up at the sky and cried out in terror. No one knew what would happen next. As for me, who had already guessed this scenario, I just quietly stood up and looked up at the sky. I muttered, "The entanglement between humanity and the alien races is finally coming to an end." The descent of the false god Tianlong seemed to have touched upon hidden rules, forcing the game to start patching the loopholes. 3 minutes passed. The 5 rifts continued to expand, but this time was completely different from before. From within the rifts, a bone-chilling wind poured down endlessly. The surging seawater slowed down as if someone hit the slow-motion button. Strangely enough, that gust of wind only affected the water, leaving people and creatures completely unharmed. Just 2 minutes later, as the rift opened and sealed itself, the ocean came to a dead stop. Frost rapidly condensed, freezing the sea into a solid, seamless block of ice in mere seconds. The raging fires around the Tundra fleet were snuffed out by the freezing air, turning into rising plumes of steam. The divers frantically surfaced, only to be stunned. The ice was already thick enough to stand on. The ships were completely sealed on the frozen surface, unable to drift. Even the Hope was no exception. Without activating its special abilities, it was just like any other stranded vessel. Originally, I planned to use the alias of the golden-haired Lion King to finish the Great War between the 3 races and stop the tsunami. But thanks to this sudden update and its 99.9% wipeout rate, the system practically did my job for me before I even had to lift a finger. The alien race is panicking, or more accurately, the 5 great royal families are panicking. This investment of theirs has reached its final stage. If they don't cut their losses quickly, every passing minute just adds to their risk. As for Sushin, the man who once slaughtered a god in the wasteland, this time, they couldn't care less. Compared to that false god, the heavenly dog, the 5 deities backing the 5 great royal families are infinitely stronger. It's enough to make them believe that once they descend, even the god of death could easily crush a mere mortal with no divine backing. But what they don't know is that, far away in the wasteland's ocean, that very same underestimated mortal is smiling right at the rift where they plan to descend. Sure enough, even the game realized that these gods are the real bugs. It was precisely because of the massive rewards from my last god-slaying feat that the system was forced to change its rules. Once the true survival phase officially begins, if I want to see these gods again, I'll probably have to march an army right up to their front doors. The development of the situation didn't exceed my expectations. Once I clearly understood the game's attitude toward the gods, I knew exactly what I had to do next. I was so familiar with it that it felt like a stroll in my own backyard. I wasn't in a hurry to enter combat mode, because right at this moment, my ears were ringing with continuous ding-ding sounds. My private messages were blowing up. Everyone who had God Sue on their friend list, from those who only added me for trading, to Yongi, who had just left moments ago, were all opening their control panels at this very moment, frantically sending me messages. Unlike last time, when the crisis hit this time, everyone had found a new hope, a new lifesaver. And that lifesaver, could it save them? The answer is absolutely yes. I directly sent a mass message. Relax. I've got this. Notification. Player Sumo, you have successfully sent a mass message to your friends. Would you like to mute private message notifications for 6 hours? Looking at the message board with hundreds of people processed by the system in a split second, I stretched my back and raised my hand to open the world channel. From midnight on February 24th to the early morning of March 9th, the ocean descent had lasted exactly 14 days. In those 2 weeks, the human population had plummeted drastically from over 4 billion to just over 2.5 billion. This silent evaporation was exactly like boiling a frog in warm water. No one realized how terrifying it was in time. But right now, the descent of the false gods behind the 5 great royal clans made all of humanity across the wasteland simultaneously feel the stench of impending death. Even though the world channel had a limit on the number of messages one could send, the update speed of the chat right now was terrifying. The sea near my area is completely frozen. The ice is so thick that even a pickaxe can't break it. Are we just supposed to wait for death? The alien races that were just fighting us suddenly knelt down to welcome something. It must be their dirty trick. It's been 2 months. How many times have they descended? You call this survival? Now I finally understand what true survival means. I'd rather go back to Earth and get smashed by a meteor. Here, some weird creature pops up every 3 meals. Who can survive this? Where's Godsu? We still have Godsu. He even slaughtered a god last time. You're still putting your hopes in Godsu? This time it's not 1, but 5. We lost 40% of our brothers in one battle, and now these things show up. This is a literal death game. I swear, I just got a message from Godsu. He told us to relax. He's got this. The world channel instantly exploded. In less than a minute, from the initial 300 people who received the message, the news spread to thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people. In the moment of a great catastrophe, any news related to Godsu spread at an unprecedented speed. Even the official organizations were doing everything they could to spread the word, just to keep everyone calm. And if the descending alien races could look down at the sea below right now, they would discover something terrifying. The so-called despair was disappearing, replaced by an emotion they had long forgotten, hope. That emotion seemed to have a life of its own, causing the whole world to vibrate at a special frequency. The people involved didn't notice it, but standing in the bridge of the hope, I acutely sensed an abnormal phenomenon. Resonance. A silent, formless resonance. The grand flag on the bow of the hope, since who knows when, had automatically started fluttering in the windless air. Without activating any abilities, the flag, with the word hope carved on the front and Su on the back, began to emit a sparkling light. That light didn't come from the flag itself, but from heaven and earth. The night sky was still pitch black, the cold wind howled, and ice covered the sea. Yet, the exact moment the world channel exploded with the news that I was making a move, the sea where the Tundra fleet was anchored suddenly lit up as bright as day. Countless tiny, thread-like rays of light flew in from all directions, unobstructed by anything, all converging onto the flag of hope. In less than 20 seconds, the brightness of the flag had almost reached the threshold of when the hope activated all its abilities. Right at that moment, the control panel automatically popped up. Notification: congratulations, player Sumo. The legendary tier vehicle Hope has unlocked its second legendary upgrade path. Notification: the legendary ability of the vehicle Hope has been successfully unlocked. Notification: detected that the vehicle meets the requirements to form a fleet. Would you like to activate the Hope fleet? 3 notifications rang out like heavenly music. The legendary ability line that had been firmly locked was now opened in a way no one could have expected. And right at the moment I looked at the beams of light still converging from heaven and earth, an idea even crazier than any previous plan flashed in my mind. What if? What if I turned every single ship on the sea into a member of the Hope fleet? If every ship could gain 60% of the Hope's power, then this entire current situation would be completely reversed. A sharp light shot out from my eyes. Looking at the 5 massive rifts in the sky, a surge of overwhelming heroism boiled in my heart. I once thought this battle was the end. But now, it was the new beginning for humanity. As long as this crazy plan was executed, The alien races would be wiped from the face of this world. The reconstruction of human civilization, aside from natural disasters, would face no other obstacles. Connie, come here. Turn on the live stream for me. I want all the alien races to see clearly how those false gods will have to grovel at my feet. After this battle, I want everyone to understand one thing. This world is not an ownerless wasteland. Clad in black armor, dual blades in hand, I issued orders through my earpiece while stepping out onto the main deck of the Hope, my aura surging like rolling thunder. Right there, the light from the grand flag of Hope enveloped my entire body. Right there, I wanted to let all those still struggling in the ruins see clearly what Hope truly looks like. Notice, congratulations to player Sumo. The ship's completion rate has exceeded 50%. The system will automatically calculate leaderboard points. Notice, congratulations to player Sumo. Your ship's disaster resistance is currently ranked first in the world. Do you want to make your ranking data public and turn on the disaster resistance livestream? Note, the livestream will only broadcast the exterior of the ship, not the interior, so other players can monitor the situation below. Notice, if you maintain your ranking for over 24 hours or viewership reaches 100 million and you survive the disaster, you will receive a random relief package. Notice, if you exceed 48 hours or viewership reaches 500 million and you survive the disaster, you will receive a wooden tier relief package. Notice activate now? Activate. I choose to make my ranking data public. I choose to turn on the disaster resistance livestream. Notice, congratulations, player Sumo detected that your ship has an outstanding disaster resistance index, automatically climbing to the #1 spot on the leaderboard. Notice, you can now enter your livestream room management page. The rock rises with the wind, soaring 90,000 miles in a single day. After the vertical module system was activated, the Hope's completion rate quietly reached the 60% mark, compared to the top-ranked ships in the disaster resistance channel. The Hope might seem the lowest with a multiplier of only 0.6, but in terms of potential, those other 30 ships could only crane their necks and look up from the foot of the mountain. When I clicked into the disaster resistance livestream page, the name at the top of the leaderboard had already been replaced. Hope. Next to it was a number that would make anyone dizzy. Thundership, 276,500 points, holding the top spot for 4 days. Hope, 67,500,000 points. The difference was over 200 times. Even though the Hope only had a 0.6 multiplier, while the Thunder had a 1.0, the gap was still suffocatingly overwhelming. Phew, I hadn't even turned on the livestream management yet, and the room already had 1 million viewers. I just glanced at the leaderboard, and the previously pitch-black livestream room quietly hit the 10 million mark. Just as I was marveling at it, the number skyrocketed again. Not 11 million, not 20 million, but 100 million. In less than 10 seconds, 100 million people flooded into the broadcast room. In peacetime, this would be absurd, but in the wasteland, it made cruel, perfect sense. I stopped paying attention to the viewer count. With a mere thought, I opened the livestream room interface. It was that same familiar feeling, being watched by tens of billions of lives, admired, carrying their hopes, holding their fates in my hands, deciding the survival path of humanity. The blood in my veins felt like it was on fire. My face burned, and every muscle tensed with excitement. It had been a long time since I felt this way. The black screen gradually cleared up. With the experience of many previous live streams, I controlled it with absolute proficiency, as if it were ingrained in my instincts. Immediately after, 2 viewing angles were opened for the audience to choose from. One was a fixed camera at the bow of the Hope, giving viewers a clear panoramic view. The other was a view from 5 kilometers above the sea, allowing me to observe the rifts in the sky and study the descent of the false gods. Without saying a single word, perfectly matching Almighty Su's usual persona, the viewers gradually felt reassured, and the comment section became lively. But in stark contrast, the mental state of the alien races who had just entered the live stream collapsed. Step 2 of the ocean assault plan had succeeded, but that success pushed the ordinary alien races straight into a freezing hell, because they finally understood Step 3 of the 5 Great Royal Clans plan. Running away was very real, very fitting for their survival instincts. When the gods behind the royal clans began their harvest, the entire wasteland would turn into an azure slaughterhouse. When that time came, whether they were land or sea aliens, there would be nowhere left to hide. Right at this moment, the golden-haired Lion King's livestream opened. The instinct to worship the strong drove countless aliens to flood in, wanting to see his reaction. And then, their mental state completely shattered. F*CK, golden-haired Lion King. Tell me this isn't real. Don't tell me you've been following Devil Sue all along. Are you on Devil Sue's peril? Damn it. The 5 great royal clans betrayed us. We alien races are really doomed. Those ancient royal clans said they'd lead us to rise up, said they'd destroy Devil Sue, and now they're slapping their own faces. I'm reporting this back to the tribe. I told you, the Lion King is Devil Sue's man. How could the alien races suddenly have a new royal clan? We are the sacrifices. The royal clans have already summoned the gods anyway. Sacrificing this much, humanity is definitely doomed this time. If Devil Sue can really kill all 5 gods, I'll surrender to him. The royal clan's plan is too vicious. They're not just scheming against humans, they're scheming against us too. They just sent out a racial challenge letter. Run. The sea aliens could still hide under the ice to avoid the divine power from the sky. But the surface aliens were just like humans. They had all become targets for the purge. Humans were dying too fast, and the food rations for the royal clans were no longer enough. So the gods behind them wanted to eat the alien races too. From the very beginning, freezing the ocean was just the first step in their plan to cut off all paths to survival. The 5 false gods are just a bunch of cowards hiding in their shells. Watch closely and see how they die. Seeing the comment section becoming increasingly chaotic, with some aliens even wanting to support me in destroying the royal clans, the Lion King stood up straight and sneered. And as if provoked by those words, the slowly opening rift in the sky suddenly tore apart in rapid succession. The invisible barrier between heaven and earth was torn apart once again by that maddening power. Smells so good. We have returned. This land has finally returned. The curse of the pitiful is still not over. Voices echoed like thunderclaps between heaven and earth. Completely different from the false god Heavenly Hound last time. Through the eyes of the massive creatures poking their heads out of the rift, I immediately realized one thing. They possessed intelligence no less than that of humans. Gone was the vacant stare, gone was the lifeless expression. 5 gods: fox, monkey, pig, dog, earth dragon. As soon as they appeared, they didn't immediately attack any creatures below. Instead, they started chatting right there in the sky. Moreover, the language they used was human. The ancestors of the dragon crystal, wild dog, and original pig all spoke perfect standard Chinese. Meanwhile, the ancestors of the cursed fox and thunder macaque used fluent American English, so flawless it was beyond reproach. They chatted with each other like old friends reuniting after a long time, completely ignoring the anxious creatures looking up from the ground. If the system hadn't sent a timely notification, both humans and aliens might have mistakenly thought they were friends, not foes. Notice: Platinum tier disaster descent detected. Bronze tier disaster. Tsunami has been forcibly replaced. All players, prepare for disaster resistance. Notice: this disaster is officially renamed Alien God Invasion. Notice: abnormal source detected. The game is automatically granting support buffs to all players. Stamina recovery plus 100%, movement speed plus 100%, weapon power plus 100%, defense plus 100%. Notice: detected that the disaster was caused by alien races. All participating creatures have been permanently punished and instantly obliterated. Notice: the total annihilation rate for this disaster is 99.9%. Surviving players will receive special rewards. As soon as the 5 notifications popped up, the buffs were applied simultaneously. The only problem was, if the opponents were alien races, these buffs would be useful. But to face the gods in the sky, it wasn't enough. Even multiplied by 1,000,000 times, it wouldn't be enough to turn the tide. Golden-haired Lion King. Has Devil Sue ever slain a god? Humph. Let me see where that human Suemo is right now. Instantly, all the alien tribes under the royal clans were wiped out by the system, leaving no one behind. But the 5 alien gods in the sky didn't waver at all. On the contrary, The final piece of news transmitted back from the royal clans made them intrigued. Like a giant scanner, the massive fox head began sweeping its gaze across the sea. Little did it know, in another place, the one it was looking for was also looking straight up at it, his gaze as calm and deep as the ocean. Cursed fox ancestor god. Incarnation of a false god. True name, Granku. Divine power, true god, ignited divine fire. Current status, incarnation descent, not true body. Limit, can exist for a maximum of 120 minutes. Has a physical form, can be injured by high-intensity attacks. Skill, large-scale plague. Creatures below the demigod level will die rapidly. Activation condition, collapse of faith, despair exceeding 70%. Cannot be destroyed directly, but the spatial rift can be attacked to force it to return. Evaluation, if you fall, you will be swallowed by the darkness. If you step forward, the darkness will tremble before you like a god. Completely different from that idiot heavenly hound last time, the cursed fox ancestor god was powerful but extremely cautious, only sending an incarnation to descend. From its skills and status, it was clear that even as gods, they highly respected their opponents. If it were the previous batches of players, they would have definitely cried in despair. But now, it was the era of humanity. I thought to myself, my eyes quickly skimming over the information of the other four gods, then relaxed my entire body. The next moment, when our lines of sight collided, the whole world seemed to stop. The massive fox head in the sky finally met the eyes of Su Mo, standing on the Hope. It was like a firework crashing into a meteorite. One side was as massive as a mountain, the other as small as a grain of sand. Yet, as every creature realized, I wasn't afraid at all. In fact, that gaze carried an indescribable calmness. So you are Suemo. The earth-shattering voice echoed across the world. The cursed fox ancestor god deliberately pushed its aura to the limit, wanting to crush the opponent at the bottom of the sea. This move had never failed before. Once used, the enemy's pillar of faith would instantly collapse. But this time, it was stunned. In its line of sight, that tiny, ant-like human didn't hide, didn't tremble, but held his head high with pride. He even raised the flimsy weapon in his hand. An ant challenging a dragon. Was he eager to die? Or just so stupid he didn't know what fear was? A series of questions flashed through its mind. Before it could react, under the gaze of countless creatures and the other four gods, a furry grizzly bear and a black and white dog casually walked out and stood beside me. A second later, the black and white dog let out a soft bark, and black and white divine light flared up. The grizzly bear, crackling with blue lightning all over, stood up on its hind legs, raised its head, and roared, "You've met Almighty Su. Why aren't you kneeling?" The thunderous roar tore through the sky, like a bomb exploding on a tranquil lake, sending raging waves surging everywhere. Under the watchful eyes of billions of creatures, Moore stood on the Hope, his fur standing on end, his entire body enveloped in blue-gold lightning. The crackling sound echoed all the way to the ninth heaven. In terms of size alone, Moore was only slightly taller than an average person, completely incomparable to the massive bodies of the gods in the sky. But the moment he roared that arrogant sentence, his fighting spirit erupted fiercely. The overwhelming aura thrilled every creature witnessing it. Without a doubt, in this first clash with the gods, humanity had taken the upper hand. This was something that had never existed in history. The gods behind the 5 great royal clans used to be able to wipe out any tribe without a true god guarding them, making resistance almost impossible. But on this desolate land, everything was different. Even though the 5 gods only descended as incarnations to frail humans, they were still irresistible existences. When they appeared, the alien races backed by ancestor gods immediately reported the situation back home. And what they received in return were only sighs. Gods had hierarchies too. The 5 great royal clans were already strong, and the gods behind them were even stronger. They were at the pinnacle of the divine realm. Therefore, when these 5 gods descended, the gods observing the world were certain that the wasteland would quickly be destroyed. Freezing the ocean was an extremely heavy price to pay, one that even other gods felt pain to see. But daring to do so meant they were absolutely sure of victory. Based on past experience, the bystander gods began, placing bets. Some guessed humanity would be wiped out in 5 minutes. Others guessed it would only take 3. Some even went big and guessed 1 minute. If it were in the past, they would all be right. But at this moment, no one expected that frail humans would actually raise their heads to fight the gods. Human, your ignorance and arrogance make me interested. I'm truly curious. Where do you get such confidence? Relying on that weak false god behind the planet? A voice as loud as heavenly thunder rolled down from the sky again. But this time, the one speaking wasn't the cursed fox ancestor god, but the strongest of the 5, the thunder macaque. Completely different from when the heavenly hound descended last time. Only able to launch a physical attack within a 5-kilometer radius with limited power, which was why the system didn't issue comprehensive buffs back then. But this time, everything was completely different. 5 true god incarnations descending shattered all existing rules. Their goal was too obvious: wipe out this entire world and start over. The moment they tore off the game's mask of omnipotent creation, the system was completely enraged, issuing maximum comprehensive buffs. Even Oreo, who previously only had the title of a god without the actual strength, suddenly recovered a portion of her abilities. Although it still couldn't save all of humanity, facing the 5 true god incarnations right now, I was no longer prey waiting to be slaughtered. I had grown stronger, strong enough to make even those 5 ancestor gods wary. I remained standing at the bow of the ship, staring intently at the sky, not saying a word. Through the system's perspective, I had clearly seen all the skills these incarnations brought with them. The cursed fox and wild dog used despair as a key to trigger a mental plague, causing mass destruction. The original pig stimulated desires, amplifying them into chaos, causing creatures to destroy themselves from within. As for the thunder macaque and dragon crystal, they only needed to make the strongest in a race bow their heads to manipulate that entire race, granting life and death like gods. None of them chose purely physical combat abilities. All of them were usurpation abilities. And the biggest obstacle that needed to be removed was only one: me. To be able to develop to the point of speaking to us as equals in such a short time. Suamo, you are quite something. Your strength, potential, and abilities would be a once-in-a-millennium rarity even in my clan. It's truly a stroke of luck that you were born into the human race. The thunder macaque spoke, its voice shaking the entire sea like thunder. Now, I will give you a chance. If you are willing to submit to the thunder macaque clan, I can take you back to the divine realm. I'll even allow you to take half of humanity with you away from this place. There are no periodic disasters there, no aging, no death. All life is immortal. As long as you work hard, anyone can step into the ranks of true gods. We come with good intentions. The real enemy is this game. The final sentence echoed throughout the entire wasteland. Lightning surged from every strand of the thunder macaque's fur, rolling across the clouds, rumbling endlessly. Even the thick, hard ice on the sea began to crack. But what stunned all creatures wasn't its divine form, but that tempting offer, leaving the wasteland, immortality, achieving true godhood. The greatest life-changing opportunity in history. For the humans living in this desolate ruin, let alone all 3 conditions at once. Just one would be enough to make countless people fight over it until their heads bled. And right now, all it took was my nod, and half of humanity would be taken away to enjoy benefits straight out of a dream. In less than 3 seconds, the livestream comment section completely exploded. Some cried and begged to be chosen, some knelt down and pleaded not to be left behind. There were also those screaming that this was a scheme to sow discord, telling me not to trust the aliens. With just a few light promises from the thunder macaque, the bond that once tied humanity's fate together in life and death was shattered. His methods were despicable, but brutally effective. As a god who had lived for countless years, he understood people, striking right at the deepest desires in the heart of every creature in this wasteland. Under that temptation, aside from the roughly 20% who maintained their rationality, the remaining billions of humans fell into a state of madness. Under extreme pressure, the olive branch thrown down by the gods was nothing but poison coated in sugar. What they feared wasn't that I would refuse, but that I would agree and not take them with me. To destroy a person, first make them go mad. So many people who had fought alongside the aliens to the bitter end, covered in wounds, yet never taking a step back. So many people who had braved natural disasters, wrestling with death day and night without ever giving up hope. So many families who had clung to torn rafts, supporting each other to survive, never uttering a word of complaint even when exhausted or passing out. Yet at this moment, their faith completely collapsed. They knelt down, dropping to both knees, kowtowing on the wooden decks until they bled. The dry thuds of their heads hitting the floor echoed endlessly. Even though they knew I might not see them, they didn't dare give up even a sliver of hope. Perhaps kneeling wasn't entirely a loss of dignity. Perhaps kneeling was their last bit of stubbornness before giving up. Private messages flooded in as well. Unlike the frantic comment section, the people who knew me weren't worried I'd abandon them, but most were advising me to refuse. The two sides were clearly divided. In the eyes of the 5 true gods in the sky, I was caught right in the middle. They smiled smugly, continuing to apply pressure. Suemo, make your choice. Look closely at the world around you. You will decide their fate. Will you abandon everything and live a miserable life alone? Or will you lead them into a new world and open a new era? I'll give you 1 minute to consider. On the Tundra fleet, half the people had already collapsed onto the decks. Even though the captains screamed themselves hoarse, even though Lu Yongi was so furious he fired his gun into the air, they heard nothing. They just knelt there, their eyes fixed on the tiny figure at the bow of the Hope. Was it that they couldn't stand up? What they truly feared was me. They feared that Suemo would actually kneel. 1 minute wasn't long. Under everyone's gaze, about 20 seconds passed. The man who had been standing as still as stone finally reacted. I slowly glanced at the people kneeling on the Tundra's deck, clearly seeing every expression on their faces. Then my eyes rested on the Hope's battle flag at the bow, something that was once dazzlingly bright but had now become gloomy and dim. I walked closer, intending to say something, but ultimately just shook my head slightly, gently stroked the flag, and returned to the center of the deck. In the final seconds of the decision time, under everyone's intense stare, I said nothing. I simply let go, dropping the 3-pointed, double-edged blade by my side. The heavy metal clanged harshly against the deck. He gave up? At that moment, those who were still trying to stand firm felt their strength drained away, collapsing on the spot. Compared to those who had already knelt, their inner conscience was 100 times stronger. However, before anyone could utter a word of cursing, a blinding light suddenly erupted. At the highest point of the Hope, a brilliant white light surged forth, like the sun rising from the darkness. All the shadows from moments ago vanished under that light, melting like snow meeting spring. That light had no color, yet it was brimming with life. That light was blinding, but it made everyone's chest feel like it was on fire. Fury surged because I roared, "Stand up!" A roar of "Stand up!" echoed, like the splitting of heaven and earth, as if all creation began from this very moment. A roar of "Stand up!" like a morning bell and evening drum, like spring rain and new sunlight. A roar of "Stand up!" that stunned all those who were kneeling. A roar of "Stand up!" that made the heads smashing against the floor instantly freeze. Compared to the giant gods hovering in the sky, I looked as tiny as an ant. Yet, for some reason, in everyone's eyes at this moment, that ant was constantly growing taller, tall enough to rival heaven and earth, tall enough to match the 5 great ancestor gods. Did I give up? Did I kneel? Did I give you permission to kneel? Stand up. All of you who are kneeling, straighten your spines for me. Straighten your knees for me. Raise your heads and look. What is above your heads? With a microphone in one hand and pointing straight at the sky with the other, my hair messy, my eyes blazing, I roared like a god of war, shaking heaven and earth. Following the direction of my finger, everyone's gaze swept past the straw dog on the front lines, then to the crystal dragon behind it. From the fox to the pig, from the pig to the monkey. I didn't need to say anything more. With just a movement of my finger, nearly a third of the kneeling people instantly sprang up, glaring at the sky. They understood what I meant. Were the 5 great ancestor gods gods? No, they were just a bunch of beasts. Since when could a fat pig humiliate and offer charity to humanity? Since when could a trickster monkey force humans to chop off their own legs? The ancestors of humanity on Earth stood at the top of the food chain for millions of years, not through charity, nor through pity, but through strength, unity, faith, and courage. Heroes have their names carved on stone monuments, while survivors are forgotten, losing their original shape. People say time heals all wounds, and one day all suffering will be forgotten. But there are some pains that can never be forgotten, some wounds that will never heal. If we kneel today, humanity's wounds will never close. If we surrender today, humanity will live forever in darkness, bidding eternal farewell to tomorrow. We possess the most precious qualities. We have potential no less than any race. And we have Almighty Su. We will not kneel. Thump, 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 thump. A familiar melody rang out, the prelude to the Internationale. Amidst the stunned gazes of the 5 ancestor gods, amidst their bewildered looks, amidst the resolute eyes of tens of thousands of people, an indescribable atmosphere began to spread from the hope to all directions. I fear nothing. But what I fear most is honest people having to lie, upright people having to bow their heads. People who dare to speak being forced into silence. People living for ideals having to watch their own ideals shatter. All of you who are kneeling, stand up. Give me your faith. Let your strength connect with mine, to face those false gods in the sky. We fight to this day not to change the world, but to not be changed by the world. We must keep walking, walking to where the lights shine bright. We must keep walking, even if only shattered dust remains after the fireworks. Crash, crash. The ocean waves roared. The cold, hard ice had cracked and melted at some point, leaving only fragile pieces. Under the surging of the great sea, they rushed forward, never looking back. The 5 great ancestor gods stood frozen like wooden statues. Even as true gods, they couldn't understand what was happening. In their vision, on that tiny hope ship, from that ant-like body, a strange energy erupted, formless, shadowless, odorless, traceless. Compared to authority, it was pitifully weak. Yet it was something that even gods didn't possess. Heaven and earth are the furnace. All creation is the firewood. When the first spark ignites, it is also the moment the injustices of this universe begin to burn to ashes. They had never heard of, never seen, and didn't understand what exactly was burning on the sea. But they saw very clearly that on this desolate land, along with that flame, more and more people stood up. Among those who had knelt, 70% had already risen, their eyes filled with fury as they stared straight into the sky. And then they stood up. Arise, ye starvelings from your slumbers. Arise, ye prisoners of want. For reason in revolt now thunders, and at last ends the age of cant. The main melody rang out. At first, it was only me singing. But soon after, the entire wasteland echoed with the chorus of tens of thousands of people. To the backing track of the Tang Dynasty Band, under the banner of Almighty Su, all of humanity, regardless of nationality or language, almost simultaneously sang that triumphant anthem. They placed their hands on their chests. They stared at me in silence. In their eyes was fire, the burning hope for tomorrow. Away with all your superstitions. Servile masses, arise, arise. We'll change henceforth the old tradition and spurn the dust to win the prize. No saviors from on high deliver. No faith have we in prince or peer. Our own right hand the chains must shiver, chains of hatred, greed, and fear. 'Tis the final conflict. Let each stand in his place. The Internationale shall be the human race. Line by line, the soul-stirring lyrics rang out. Group by group, humanity stood up. In just 1 minute, I had directly given my answer to the 5 beastly gods hanging in the sky. And in that exact same minute, all the humans still standing on this wasteland had collectively submitted their answer to the question called tomorrow. All humanity in the wasteland. Blend your strength with mine. Pour all your strength into the hope. Right now, Su Mo, captain of the Hope, commander of the Hope Fleet, representative of the wasteland, representative of Huaxia, representative of all humanity, solemnly invites everyone, every living human, to join my fleet. A sacred feeling washed over me. The energy flowing in my body boiled to the point of almost exploding. I dashed toward the bow of the ship. Under the gaze of billions, I raised my right hand high, my left hand continuously pounding hard against my left chest, right over my heart. No one knew how much excruciating pain I was enduring. But at that moment, without needing to be rallied, all of humanity stood up. Boom. Like a switch being flipped, or an ultimate condition being triggered. As the Hope's flag fluttered in the wind, the entire wasteland began to shake violently. In the Tundra Fleet, every survivor puffed out their chests and pounded their hearts. On Iron Rock Mountain, countless people raised their left hands to the sky, looking toward the distant sea, their right hands rhythmically pounding their hearts. On the battleship's Dragon Flag, Polar Bear, Dawn Sword, and Crimson Moon, soldiers stepped out onto the decks, silently pounding their chests to the exact same rhythm. 1,200 war zones. 2 billion punches. 2 billion hearts beating to the same drum. Under the terrified gazes of the aliens on both sea and land, all of humanity seemed guided by an invisible will, acting in unison to a wordless rhythm. Tiny streams of light rose from the tops of their heads, pulled by a terrifying gravitational force, converging into a river, pouring toward a single destination, the tundra, toward the Hope. And then, the sky lit up. Light spread, covering everything, illuminating the entire sky. Across the wasteland, the sparkling light continuously gathered, pouring straight into the flag in my hand. The light of hope made the flag blaze fiercely. Then, when the pulling force reached its absolute peak, I let go. But the flag didn't fall. It flew up. Countless rays of light named Hope lifted the flag, sending it soaring ever higher, illuminating this entire desolate world. The whole sky seemed to enter the moment of dawn. The 5 ancestor gods, who originally occupied the entire space, were now forced back into half the sky, struggling miserably under the light of hope. Notice, congratulations to player Suemo. The legendary journey of the ship Hope is being initiated. Notice, detected 2,685,036,542 people requesting to join your fleet. Do you accept? Notice, detected an unknown amount of power pouring into your ship. Do you accept? Notice, warning. Accepting this amount of power may cause permanent damage to the ship. Do you wish to proceed? Accept all join requests. Accept all power. I didn't hesitate. Very well. You want a divine descent? Then today, I'll show you what true pain is. This is the world of humanity. Ignoring the 5 beasts howling in the sky, under the gaze of billions, I strode straight into the Hope's cabin. One press of a button. One push of a lever. The deck split open, and the vertical launch pad slowly rose. After destroying the Heavenly Hound last time, I had experience. From the moment the 5 great ancestor gods appeared, I only had one thought in my mind. Destroy them. The next true survival version was about to launch, system bugs would be patched, and the current grinding opportunities would be gone. To stand firm against the aliens and zombies from the new continent, the rewards from these 5 ancestor gods must be taken. System, how many survival points are left? Current inventory, 86,953 points. Pour it all into these 5 missiles. Maximize the damage. As soon as I finished speaking, on a level that neither gods nor the game system could see, over 86,000 survival points began restructuring. From the outer shell, inner core, and engine, to the warhead explosives. This was the largest expenditure ever seen in the wasteland. No one knew what the final damage would reach. But when I saw the faces of the 5 ancestor gods shift from calm to the same panic the Heavenly Hound had before it died, I laughed. Right then, Gong Gong appeared on the control panel. Captain Suemo, 5 targets locked. Activate R, 3 missiles for precision strike. Scan range, 200 kilometers. Cannot be intercepted. Cannot be jammed. From the very beginning, the 5 beasts in the sky were already locked in the crosshairs. Suemo, you're not human. Humanity cannot possess this power. Share it. We can be equals. We can conquer the world together. The white light over the wasteland had gathered to its peak. The hope shone brightly like a holy body. No one knew what that light did, but when I saw the 5 ancestor gods finally terrified and trying to flee, I smiled. Oreo smiled. All of humanity smiled. 5 distinguished guests from afar. Allow me to bid you a polite farewell. Relying on the power of truth for the rest of our lives, let us conquer everything. Goodbye. Under the gaze of billions of people, I spread my arms wide. Behind me, 5 true shooting stars roared as they shot straight into the sky, tearing through the firmament. This time, it was truly the end. Human civilization could finally shout out the 2 soul-shaking words: conquer. Couldn't run, couldn't hide. To tear through space and arrive here, the 5 great royal clans had prepared for who knows how long, expending countless resources and effort just to barely build a pathway. But wanting to go back? Relying on themselves? It was almost impossible. They hadn't even managed to kill a single creature yet, and their retreat speed by tearing space was tragically slow. They could only gape in horror, watching the 5 missiles slowly approach, with no way to dodge. At the same time, all the survivors scattered across the wasteland finally snapped back to reality. They quietly looked up, watching the 5 streaks of light tear through the night sky, then slowly closed their eyes. I hope that after this battle, I can find a peaceful place, build a small house, live with my parents, and grow some vegetables. I hope I can grow stronger faster, and later join Almighty Su's shelter to become his right-hand man. I hope the next disaster won't be as tragic as this one. Humanity really can't take another hit. I hope that when we head out to the Great Sea, we can quickly find a place to settle down and stabilize. I hope. Even though those shooting stars weren't real shooting stars, at this moment, humanity's hope had given them an entirely new meaning. People bravely dreamed of life after the battle. They dreamed that humanity in the future could rebuild order, constructing a united and stable world. They dreamed of the day humanity conquered this world. And even more, they longed for every morning when they were still alive. They dreamed of a breeze, a sip of water, a wheat field, a small lamp lit just for themselves. They dreamed that every day from now on would be a new chapter for humanity. As for me, Sumo, standing on the deck, I listened to the system announce that the reward had reached the gold tier. At the same time, the final climax of the Internationale was gradually playing. I let out a long breath, feeling as if the heavy boulder that had been pressing on my chest for so long was finally lifted. Captain Sumo, missiles will impact targets in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. An earth-shattering explosion, followed by continuous boom-boom sounds. The sky bloomed like a giant firework display, illuminating the entire night over the wasteland. Shockwaves spread from the upper atmosphere, blowing away all the accumulated clouds, leaving not a single trace behind. Did it succeed? All the survivors held their breath, looking up. They had the game interface open, waiting anxiously, relying on the painful experience from last time. But before the notification panel could appear, in the live stream screen that hadn't yet turned off, an excited voice rang out. It's over. We won. That shout was like a switch being flipped. The entire game interface instantly exploded with notifications, ringing rapidly in every survivor's ears. Detected that the Platinum Tier disaster, Alien God Invasion, has been forcibly eliminated by player Sumo. The disaster has officially ended. Due to the extremely high tier of the disaster system will be suspended for 30 days. Disaster rewards are being prepared and will be confirmed and distributed by Sumo. Detected malicious exploitation of system bugs by players. The system has completed tracing and will patch them in the upcoming update. Additionally, because the bug caused severe losses to the human faction, the system will issue compensation, also to be decided by Sumo. You have achieved the impossible miracle, the final battle, receiving the human faction privilege for 180 days. Over 99% of human faction players participating in the battle has caused the privilege to be further upgraded. The game interface will undergo maintenance in 3 days for a duration of 14 days. The True Survival Mode update is postponed, and all players will receive gifts after maintenance. 9 notifications rang like 9 bells in everyone's ears. Rewards, compensation, privileges, updates. It was like pies falling from the sky. But this time, no one cheered or celebrated. They just quietly collapsed onto the decks, completely drained of strength. Because everyone understood clearly, with the experience from killing the Heavenly Hound, humanity had won big this time. In the Disaster Resistance channel, there wasn't a single comment. Everyone was silent, welcoming a new era. The people collapsed on the ground were like tireless playback machines, repeating a single phrase over and over. Long live Almighty Su. They looked at my figure on the screen, not tall, but shining as brightly as the sun. Their hearts surged with infinite gratitude. As for me, I slowly walked to the bow of the ship, raising the Hope's battle flag high with one hand. My compatriots, now is still not the time to relax. Look around you. The alien races are still there. Our mission is not yet over. Right now, stand up. Return to your stations on the ships. As soon as the words fell, as if carrying an invisible magic, over 90% of the survivors instantly sprang up out of conditioned reflex, even though their bodies, inside and out, were screaming that they needed rest. But under the dual impact of my words and the rewards, adrenaline surged like a tsunami, wiping away the pain, leaving only burning passion. Good. I see your effort. All captains, stand up. Step to the bow of your ships and grasp your battle flags. Compared to ordinary sailors, the captains acted with terrifying synchronization this time. On the tundra, they stepped out one by one. Across the wasteland, other captains also stepped forward simultaneously. As if telepathically linked, everyone took their positions and raised their battle flags at the same time. Good. I feel you grasping them. I feel the loyalty in your hearts. You haven't backed down. Your hearts are still beating. Even though our ships are damaged, even though countless aliens are still lurking around us, right now, shout with me. Rebirth. The roar echoed in unison. Thousands upon thousands of captains shouted together. And right after, under everyone's astonished gaze, a miracle appeared. A faint white light rose from the decks, gently floating like a mother's hand tenderly caressing wounds. From massive battleships to simple wooden rafts, the white light acted like a skilled surgeon, slowly stitching up every piece of damage. Broken masts were lifted back into place. Cracked hulls automatically sealed, smooth as new. Every bloodstain, every trace of sacrifice quickly vanished, leaving no remnants behind. Thanks to the shared special ability from the Hope battleship, the restoration effect reached up to 60%, leaving everyone stunned. In less than a minute, over 90% of the ships were restored to their freshly launched state. The rest, though not fully recovered, were fit enough to sail the seas. All the captains were ecstatic to the point of madness. The sailors on the ships also burst into unimaginable joy. But before they could fully enjoy that feeling, the next background music suddenly played in the Disaster Resistance livestream. He's a Pirate, the classic theme of Pirates of the Caribbean. Thump, thump, thump. The opening melody swelled, the rapid drum beats striking straight at their chests, awakening all the dormant fighting spirit in everyone's hearts. Music has no borders. From people in their 50s to 17 or 18-year-old teenagers, no one could resist it. Under the influence of the music, everyone clenched their fists, their eyes simultaneously turning toward me. As the commander of the Hope fleet, the fleet that gathered 2.6 billion people, I raised one hand high. All ships, hear my command. Weigh anchor. Rumble. Sailors at the bows put all their strength into turning the capstans. With a metal screech that set teeth on edge, heavy anchors were pulled out of the water. Hoist the sails. Swoosh. On tens of thousands of ships, under my command, the sails were hoisted simultaneously. It was 4 a.m., and the wind had shifted. As soon as the sails were set, the wind howled, pushing the entire fleet forward like speeding arrows. All ships, head toward the most concentrated alien areas. Charge. Seeing the white light from the Hope reflecting on their own hulls, no one hesitated for even a second. Captain after captain spun their steering wheels hard, screaming themselves hoarse, charge. Immediately after, the white light gathered at the bows, instantly transforming into a spherical energy shield. Even the weakest ships, which previously could only do a few knots an hour, all simultaneously accelerated to 35 knots. With physical immunity like a porcupine's quills, any alien that dared block their path would instantly explode into a bloody mist upon the slightest touch. 5 minutes later, the charge ended. Cheers like a hurricane echoed across the wasteland. According to the Wasteland Chronicles, on March 9th, at 4:18 a.m., humanity officially ushered in the era of freedom. The disaster ended, the tsunami completely stopped, and the sea returned to its original calm, without a single ripple. The area where the Hope was anchored, after the flames of war had died down, once again blazed brightly. Ending the live broadcast, I didn't hesitate, nor did I need to explain. I directly ordered 11 artillery shots to be fired. The blockade of over 15,000 aliens instantly collapsed. In the sea of fire, they were reduced to ashes, leaving only a few treasure chests floating on the surface. The sky was still murky with smoke and dust from the ballistic missile explosions, but that didn't affect the excitement surging in every survivor's heart. After a brief rest, the work of collecting the spoils continued. From the lighthouse atop the Hope, one could see heads popping out of the water one by one, every face beaming with a bright smile. Lu Yongi and I, the two top authorities of the Tundra fleet, walked side by side on a wooden raft, followed by over 10 captains. By now, I had taken off all my armor, wearing only a simple hoodie and pants. My youthful face made me look no different from a college student from the civilized era. Lu Yongi and the other captains had also changed out of their blood-stained clothes, putting on brand new outfits. Looking at the magnificent scene on the water, Lu Yongi was like a child who had just gotten a new toy, observing while constantly marveling that the disaster was finally over. The ships were repaired, the aliens were scared out of their wits, and humanity's subsequent migration would definitely be much smoother. He said it was all thanks to me. Without me, these people would probably. Before I could reply, Tianlong squeezed up from behind, laughing and teasing that even at this hour, Brother Lu still wanted to be a buzzkill. Lu Yongi laughed out loud, admitting it was true, then shifted the topic to the upcoming game update. He figured that although they would lose some support functions, after this battle, there probably wouldn't be many humans left who wanted to focus on developing within the game anyway. Speaking of this, he tilted his head to look at me. I nodded in confirmation, saying that the upcoming version would remove the trading market and the global chat channel. Humanity would officially enter an isolated survival mode. Fortunately, however, most of the current fleets had already gathered quite a few people, so they could use the remaining time to establish contact. At least it wouldn't be a situation where they were caught completely off guard when the game removed the functions. It's just that wanting to witness a bustling scene like today's again would probably be very difficult. The true survival mode, for humanity right now, wasn't necessarily a bad thing in some respects. When the game no longer provided auxiliary functions, people would be forced to shift their focus back to reality, no longer relying on uncertain virtual features and depending on the abundant seafood resources available. As long as the disasters weren't too horrific, if they could hold out through the first half year, future development would only be a matter of time. Seeing me deep in thought, a faint smile on my lips, Lu Yongi pondered for a moment, then said his fleet wouldn't be going to the new continent, but Director Long had a different idea. I tilted my head. Lu Yongi continued explaining that Director Long had reached out. This wasn't just anyone's personal decision, but a matter concerning the entire human destiny community. After the true survival mode update, the new continent would indeed have countless opportunities. But with humanity having already lost 40% of its population, the risk level there was too high. If another collective disaster occurred, humanity might be completely exhausted. Therefore, everyone was considering an alternative plan, retreating deep into the ocean, where the disaster rate was only about 40%. With the supplies accumulated after this battle and the upcoming rewards, if they took shelter there, the chances of survival would be much higher. It was a choice all of humanity had to make immediately, because opportunity always goes hand in hand with risk. This deep-sea version had already claimed billions of lives. Those still alive clearly understood the cruelty of this game. You need a life to spend your money. If they entered the new continent and faced a 100% disaster rate, it would likely be game over after just a few rounds. But if they retreated to the seabed and tried to survive, who knows? Humanity might find a new turning point. Wasn't it true that this time, those who stayed put and defended their positions suffered the fewest casualties? Therefore, less than 10 minutes after the victory, the higher-ups of the human destiny community quickly passed a resolution, handing the final decision-making power over to me. This was an unprecedented level of respect. Almighty Su had saved humanity, so humanity should trust Almighty Su. Of course, if they knew what was about to happen on the new continent, they definitely wouldn't have asked that question. The explosive outbreak of frenzied mutant zombies meant that without enough strength, the new continent was a death trap. Whoever went there would die. That was absolutely no joke. I thought for a moment. Seeing Lu Yongi's serious expression, I didn't hesitate anymore. I chuckled softly and said, "When you guys asked me this question, didn't you already have the answer in your hearts? I definitely won't advise everyone to go to the new continent. On the contrary, I want to tell everyone a truth. I originally planned to wait until the rewards were distributed before revealing it, but now is probably the right time." I waved my hand, signaling the group behind me to stop. Without holding back, I selected the key points and quickly laid them out, from the specific inhibitor for infected alien creatures to the upcoming changes, to how their strength would gradually increase until they finally turned into zombies. Not only could it infect ordinary aliens, but even humans wouldn't be spared. Everything I said was the absolute truth, without any exaggeration. Yet after hearing it, the dozen or so captains couldn't help but gasp. Everyone showed clear signs of lingering fear and terror. It was easy to tell that while everyone had previously talked about retreating to the deep sea to take shelter, they still harbored some fantasies about the opportunities on the new continent. But now it was different. After hearing that, anyone who still wanted to go would truly have something wrong with their head. Except for me, of course. Realizing the importance of this information, Lu Yongi was no longer in the mood for a stroll. After a brief apology, he immediately quickened his pace, finding a secluded spot to leave. He clearly wanted to report back to Long Chi. This was exactly the result I expected, so I didn't stop him. Instead, I continued leading everyone on a patrol of the area. 10 minutes later, the group finished a lap around the wooden rafts and returned to the tundra ship. And here, I met an old enemy again, Tianlong. He was tied tightly to a chair. The moment he saw me, he howled like a madman, cursing that I was a devil, that everyone had been deceived by me, that I was the real reason humanity was heading toward extinction. He called me a butcher, a cold-blooded killer who didn't blink, a hypocrite, a fake. Go to hell. He struggled so violently that the chair tipped over onto the deck. The two sailors guarding him from behind couldn't react in time, leaving him face down on the deck. But his mouth didn't stop cursing, screaming like a maniac. Right at that moment, Shen Ku, who had been standing behind me, seemed to have noticed something. She took 2 quick steps forward and, without a word, swung her blade down. Tianlong's 2 hands were instantly severed from his body. Dark red blood spurted from the cuts. A heart-wrenching scream replaced his previous curses. Shen Ku coldly said, "Even now, you still plan to pull tricks in front of me? Don't think we don't know you wanted to use the game panel to list all your inventory on the market. With just 1 word from me, all those goods would be instantly reverse-traded from your shelter core." The trick of listing goods cheaply before dying was a common tactic, and Tianlong had naturally thought of it too. He just didn't act it out well enough, so he couldn't fool Shen Ku. He chuckled hoarsely, calling Shen Ku the good niece of Shun Etian, then maniacally recounted the process of torturing him, from chopping off his left arm, to his right arm, to his legs, until a cold flash of a blade swept past. This time, Tianlong was silenced forever. His head rolled onto the deck, blood gushing from his neck. His face still bore that crazed smile mixed with a hint of unwillingness. He was dead, despicable to the very end. Right where he fell, a complete shelter core rolled out. No one expected that a man who trusted no one like him would always carry his base core on his person. Shen Ku choked back sobs as she thanked me, then blamed herself for failing her uncle. I stepped forward, hugged her as she cried, and gently patted her back to comfort her. A deep sense of sorrow also welled up in my heart. Shun Etian, an ordinary yet great man. He never had the chance to shine in this desolate wasteland, but he silently changed so many things, including humanity's almighty Su. I told her that one day, everyone would remember him. They would remember the warriors who fell before the dawn. 5 a.m., wasteland time. After patrolling the entire tundra fleet, holding Tianlong's shelter core, I returned to the Hope battleship. Dealing with an enemy personally didn't bring me much satisfaction, but when I saw Su Chan playing with more on the deck, my heart felt cleansed, all the dark clouds dispersing. I called up the game panel, looking at the over 30 system notifications waiting to be processed. In just a short time, the number of unread messages had increased to 36. As soon as I opened it, just like when I received the rewards after the False God Heavenly Hound disaster, I immediately noticed a few extremely important lines. Compared to last time, which only had 3 tiers of rewards, this time there was an extra tier. The messages marked in white were standard notifications. Reading them or not wasn't too important. The blue messages were rewards that all players in the wasteland would receive, requiring them to choose one of the displayed options. Currently, there were 4 blue messages. The green messages were special rewards for individuals with outstanding contributions, also 4 of them. But most importantly, there was a red message that had just been sent not long ago. Just glancing at the information displayed on it made my heart sink slightly, an ominous feeling rising. Yet the movements of my hands didn't slow down at all. With a thought, I didn't rush to open the red message, but first clicked on the first light blue letter. Note: detected 100% completion of the Platinum Tier Disaster Alien God Calamity. Initiating distribution of Tier 1 Gold Disaster Rewards. Note: the recipients of this reward are all players. Note: dear player Su Mo, please select one reward for this disaster. Note: anomaly detected. Reward distribution paused. System error reported. Note: dear player Su Mo, the system detects that you have entered the reward phase. The game is processing. Note: detected anomalies in your game data. The system will apply Article 35, Clause 2 of the Reward Distribution Rules, transferring you to a special reward space. Note: during this time, your consciousness will be guided. The time ratio is 1 to 100. Please ensure you are in a safe location before mentally chanting, "receive reward," to enter. It was the exact same feeling as last time, but also completely different. My attempt to exploit the loophole had been exposed. I stayed silent for a moment, then immediately hid the system panel, stopping all actions. Sure enough, the worst-case scenario I had anticipated had happened. Last time, when I used the Dongfeng missile to blow up the false god Heavenly Hound, I suspected the game might detect the anomaly and report an error. But afterward, perhaps because the system item was too powerful, or because the missile disappeared after use, leaving no evidence, the game didn't issue a warning. I gradually let my guard down. Later, before the tsunami, the miraculous scanning light didn't find any issues either, making me even more reassured. But now it was different. The game was no longer playing deaf and blind. The missile launcher that had fired the 5 missiles was still sitting right in the middle of the Hope's deck, not yet retracted. In the sky, the smoke and fire hadn't even fully dissipated, and the game had already detected the anomaly. But it couldn't pinpoint it exactly yet. So it could only send a temporary warning, while forcing a change in the reward format to a special space. I couldn't rush this. Once lured in there, what awaited me might not be a reward, but an interrogation like the time I was swept by the golden light. My survival points in the system were currently depleted. If I was interrogated and had no points to clear the errors, I'd be in huge trouble. I'd wait until 8 a.m., when the system restored a new batch of survival points, before going back to claim the rewards. For ordinary survivors, the game's rewards were a lifeline, a precious medicine to change their fate. But no one, not even the game, knew that the system was my true trump card. It was what would help me dominate the future, the ultimate weapon that could overturn this entire world. Right now, a game that couldn't even handle false gods wanted to judge me? Then bring it on. Try fighting my system first. I sneered inwardly. After so much grueling tempering, a few warning lines like this meant nothing to me anymore. Just a few seconds later, my state of mind had completely stabilized. Seeing Su Chan running over, I immediately broke into a smile as gentle as the spring breeze. I definitely had to claim the rewards, and I definitely had to go to the new continent. Now that I had my sister back, from now on, no one in this world could hold me back anymore. Just wait. One day, I would be the one interrogating this cruel game. I picked Su Chan up, looking at her innocent face full of smiles, and a fierce anticipation for our future life surged in my heart. A person's actions reflect who they are. I wasn't the type to easily show my emotions. I always had clear goals, was decisive in my actions, and never wallowed in feelings, whether it was romance, friendship, or family. But that wasn't betrayal. On the contrary, I was very loyal to my emotions. I knew exactly what I needed and what responsibilities I had to bear. Family is a safe harbor, a place to rest after a tiring journey before setting sail again to battle fate. It isn't a paradise. Crossing the line brings backlash. So the emotion of reuniting with my sister only erupted for a brief moment. Then I quickly returned to my original state. Calm, simple, and peaceful. Sushin pulled my hand, saying Uncle Lu was looking for me again, telling me to hurry over. Once Mom and Dad arrived too, our family would never be apart again. I smiled and replied that once I finished my work, I would personally cook her a delicious meal. In the area where the Tundra fleet was stationed, over 200,000 aliens had been wiped out in just one day. Blood dyed the sea red, exchanging it for a ray of hope in this land of death. Although the current drop rate couldn't compare to the early stages of the game, and was even lower than when I bombarded 20,000 aliens before, with the massive number this time. Over 210,000 aliens killed. The resulting harvest was still enough to make anyone's hair stand on end. 5:45 a.m., wasteland time. Almost all the treasure chests floating on the sea had been collected and neatly stacked on wooden rafts and specialized cargo ships. No one stole, and no one dared to even think about taking them. Aside from looks of admiration and reverence, there were no disputes. Because the rules of the wasteland were very clear, whoever kills gets the loot. And since I killed all those aliens, naturally, they were mine. In the meeting room of the Hope, Tianlong sat at the conference table, quickly flipping through a small notebook. Doing a final calculation, he reported that the inventory for this harvest was basically complete. The detail was that the drop rate was getting lower and lower. Otherwise, the number of chests collected would have been at least 1.5 to 2 times higher. Beside him were 7 captains, all responsible for inventorying the spoils of war. Normally, Shinku, the fleet's head steward, would also participate. But because the Tianlong incident had too great an impact, per Lu Yongi's decision, she was given time off. Her resting place was the luxury cabin on the Hope. I could also guess Lu Yongi's intention. That rigid man was trying to pull our relationship closer. And honestly, for someone like him, thinking this far ahead was already a huge effort. Time passed. It was nearly 6 a.m. The final numbers were finally locked in. Tianlong cleared his throat, gathered the captain's ledgers, stood up, and read the summary report of the campaign from March 8th to March 9th. Aliens eliminated. Over 210,000. Among them, land aliens, approximately 98,000. Sea aliens, approximately 120,000. Intact alien corpses, 35,800. Incomplete corpses, 65,600. For humanitarian reasons, 19,600 humanoid alien corpses were excluded and not extracted from materials. Extracted materials include 13,000 units for weapons, 8,600 units for armor, 27,000 units for tools, and 15 parts convertible to points. Total treasure chests collected, 7,100. Among them, 1 platinum chest, 89 gold chests, 675 silver chests, and 1,784 bronze chests. Iron chests, 1,781. Wooden chests, 2,770. The drop rate was about 3.5%. It was indeed far worse than before. But with the massive number of aliens this time, that figure was completely acceptable. Nearly 3,000 wooden chests could yield common survival items, very useful for newcomers or newly stabilized migrant fleets. Nearly 3,500 bronze chests and books provided scarce resources, enough to help the fleet solidify its rear. Nearly 700 silver chests had the potential to yield special weapons and tools, helping combat power skyrocket in a short time. As for the nearly 100 gold chests and the single platinum chest, they looked terrifyingly impressive at first glance, but for the vast majority of survivors, they might not actually be usable right away. I once saw a foreigner get a rare destroyer blueprint from a gold chest, but to him, it was no different from scrap paper. Even knowing a sea disaster was coming, he didn't have the production capacity to build that blueprint. Conversely, it was the practical items I gifted him, like tools and food, that saved his life through the hardest times. Now, that person had developed very strongly in his regional channel. At this moment, seeing Tianlong open his mouth to say something but hesitating, I laughed first. Let's do it this way. There's no need to divide my rewards based on the data. Winning this battle wasn't just my merit alone, but everyone's. Even those who fell, they have a share in it too. If we divide it rigidly, wouldn't that be too unfair to those who sacrificed themselves? Tianlong nodded solemnly, saying that even if Almighty Su didn't say it, he understood. Director Liu had already instructed them beforehand, and the brothers in the fleet all felt the same way. I waved my hand to cut him off. Forget it. What Liu Yongi says doesn't count, and the living can't decide either. Just listen to me. I'll take the platinum chest and all the gold chests. Does anyone have an objection? At first, everyone shook their heads vigorously, then simultaneously nodded, indicating complete agreement. I continued, I'll take 200 silver chests and 500 bronze chests. As for the wooden and iron chests, I don't need them. The surplus from my share, distribute it to the families of those who sacrificed themselves. Tell them to live well. Consider it a small token of my appreciation to everyone. The captains were all stunned, but I shook my head decisively, saying that I do what I say, and they should just follow my orders. I made the biggest contribution and took the highest rewards, but I was never a greedy bloodsucker. Wooden chests and iron chests were practically worthless to me now. Even keeping the bronze and silver chests was mainly to prepare for the villagers at Iron Rock Mountain who lacked food and clothing. Honestly, just that platinum chest alone was worth more than 10,000 iron chests combined. The number of treasure chests had been tallied, but the specific distribution still needed to go through a series of strict procedures and standardized processes. I had no objections to this. After all, the great disaster had been paused for over 30 days. I still had to go find the sea god, then prepare to battle wits with the game. There was no rush to enter the new continent. After seeing the captains off, the light outside was already bright, and the clock struck past 6 a.m. Looking out from the bow, the survivors on the wooden rafts had already started lighting fires to cook. Cooking smoke curled up with the morning breeze. Without a doubt, everyone was getting a bit cocky. But this was a cockiness with a valid reason. Because humanity had won, and the victory was easier than they had ever dared to hope. Bright laughter echoed everywhere, and I couldn't help but smile faintly too. I returned to the living quarters below deck, and for the first time since setting sail, I took the initiative to go into the kitchen and cook a proper meal. Fresh, high-quality beef was available, premium spices were ready, and the water used was level 2 nether energy water, brought out for the very first time just for cooking. The ingredients were luxurious, but the dishes were very simple. Beef stew with potatoes, hand-pulled noodles, stir-fried shredded potatoes, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, and cabbage tofu soup. 5 familiar dishes, all my mother's specialties back on Earth, and also the flavors our family loved the most. Every cooking step was practiced and smooth, requiring no deep thought. As soon as the fire flared up, the aroma filled the room, making anyone who smelled it swallow their saliva. The first one lured in was Sushin. Just a moment ago she was playing with more, but she immediately ran down, her eyes shining like stars, crying out, "Brother, how are you living like this? This isn't the wasteland. Did you come here on vacation or just to show off?" My life was unbelievably simple. For me, food hadn't been an issue for a very long time. After the first few tough days, followed by continuous post-disaster benefits, survival worries like what to eat or drink had long vanished from my list. When I was in the basin, the head chef made special meals for me every day. My dining life was practically imperial. So when Sushin, who had just endured a month of hardship at the tundra base, saw this scene, she exploded. Well, no, her stomach exploded from craving. Brother, I swear this is my last bite. After this, I won't ask for more, really." By the 11th minute of the meal, the food in front of Sushin was piled as high as a small mountain. It was to the point where even Moore, who was always a big eater, could only stare in dumbfounded shock. As for me, I leaned back in my chair, opening a cold Coke from the freezer. I looked at my sister with eyes full of affection, telling her there was no need to rush. From now on, I would cook for her every day. Such a peaceful life didn't come around often. We fight to exchange it for a better tomorrow. Being able to cook a meal for a loved one, watching them eat with relish, to me, that feeling was worth more than opening a platinum treasure chest. When the meal ended, seeing Sushin volunteer to wash the dishes with more, I smiled, stood up, and returned to the captain's quarters. Sushin had the ability to communicate with animals. As for why she had that power, she never explained clearly, and I didn't ask. Not everything needs to be dug up to the very bottom. Just like the secret of the 1999 Expeditionary Army, if you try to investigate before you're ready, you'll only torment yourself. Taste just enough, step forward boldly, strike right at the core, and then enjoy the fruits of your labor. That was my principle of action. 8 a.m. Right on the dot, I closed my eyes slightly and activated my thoughts. The system panel popped up, but unlike every other time, the daily log didn't appear immediately. Instead, on the interface, for the first time, I saw a letter glowing with a faint blue light. For me? Carrying a bit of curiosity, I controlled my thoughts and pressed on that letter. Host Sumo, congratulations. This is a congratulatory letter from the system. When you read this letter, it means you have stepped into an entirely different tier. To some extent, you might not have realized yet that you have gradually transcended the realm of an ordinary person. But growth is always silent, isn't it? You have seen, you have thought, you have acted, you have succeeded. You made all of humanity remember your name, becoming the emblem that represents the human race. Your name echoes across worlds, accompanied by the panicked flight of your enemies. You have become someone even you yourself never dared to dream of before. Now, you are no longer concerned with how you survive or how well you live. Perhaps you are looking forward to peace, stability, power, or immortality. But whatever it is, your ambitions have grown larger. In your chest, there is fury. In your mind, there are plans. Your whole body is brimming with strength, and behind you are countless fists supporting you. It is time to make a choice. I believe, for you, this is not a difficult decision. Please check today's survival log and give me your answer. The letter wasn't long, just over 100 words. I finished reading it in less than 10 seconds, chuckling inwardly. Before I could even summarize this phase myself, the system had already done it for me. Looking at the last line, I thought for a moment, but wasn't too surprised. I reached out, pressed Save Permanently, and exited the interface. Immediately after, the long-absent survival log appeared, as radiant as the sun, sparkling in gold. Doomsday Calendar, March 9th. You discovered the terrifying consequences caused by the ability inhibitor. This made you anxious, but fortunately, it won't erupt immediately. Survival plus 500. You formulated a plan to coordinate all of humanity, achieving remarkable results during the Great Disaster. Survival plus 1000. Your name was chanted by over 10 million people. They need you. They hope you will step forward. Survival plus 500. The guiding fire ignited, and a roar echoed in your heart. The one who lights the fire for others cannot freeze to death in the blizzard. The one who paves the way for freedom cannot be stopped by thorns. You stepped forward, lighting the fire of hope. Survival plus 20,000. Your name was chanted by over 2 billion people. To some extent, you are a god. Survival plus 30,000. You gained a massive amount of wealth, a bumper harvest. Survival plus 5,000. You defeated a heavenly tier enemy, but because you used system power, the survival points were reduced. Survival plus 50,000. Scanning the host's survival environment. Evaluation complete. Today you received an additional 461 points. Total received, plus 107,461 points. Current survival points, 107,461. Detected that survival points have exceeded the 10,000 mark, and the host has met hidden condition +1. You have obtained the right to self-update. You have lit a blazing fire in the dark night, tearing apart the disgusting darkness. No malice dares approach. No injustice can escape your eyes. Most importantly, an entire race has placed their lives in your hands. On the path forward, you have already opened up a second path early. Please make your choice. Choice 1. Continue on the predetermined path. The system will retain all current functions and unlock 100,000 expansion feature points. The update will not affect future functions. Choice 2. Step onto the second path ahead of schedule. The system will undergo major changes, unlocking features from the 1 billion survival points milestone early. All functions except upgrading will be locked until enough points are reached. The upgrade mechanism will completely change. The way points are earned from the daily log will change, and the focus of the update will shift to race, territory, resources, and technology cannot be reversed after choosing. The lines of text surged before my eyes like a rushing river. Over 100,000 points not only made up for all the points I had spent, but also left a surplus of tens of thousands. But I wasn't overjoyed. When my eyes rested on the final choice, I paused, suddenly understanding why the system said this choice wouldn't be difficult for me. That's right. I was always careful with every step, but a crazy bloodline flowed in my veins. What the hell was creation ceiling? That feature consumed a terrifying amount of points. Without system rewards, I couldn't afford to use it on small items, let alone big ones. As for the training ground, although useful, compared to the upcoming update, it was like an ant compared to a dragon. There was a time when I set a small goal for myself, gather 1 million survival points in 5 years. But now, just one choice could unlock the features of the 1 billion milestone. I had no reason to refuse, nor did I need to hesitate. I choose the second path. Upgrade. Unlock the billion-tier features. As soon as the words fell, the log interface vanished, and a new line of text appeared. Host Su-mo, the system will begin updating in 24 hours. Estimated update duration, 36 hours. Please arrange your time accordingly. Unlike the game, the system was always thoughtful in every detail, even calculating all possibilities for the update time. I laughed, silently praising it for knowing I was up against those game dogs and deliberately delaying the update. Beautifully done. With over 100,000 points as capital, I no longer had any fear of the game's tricks. In the face of absolute power, dragons must coil and tigers must lie down. Game, your grandpa Su-mo is here. I chose to claim the reward. Amidst the apocalyptic torrent, humans were like tiny grains of sand, seemingly indispensable, yet actually incredibly fragile. When I was weak, I had to be cautious in everything I did, guarding against this, preventing that. The game, the system, strangers. I trusted no one. Having experienced countless deaths, watching figures vanish in the dark currents, I gradually became more open-minded about my own life. You harm me, I deal with you. You make me suffer a loss, I make you spit out double. A tough and bold will was forged, and my actions became much more relaxed as a result. I once thought about hiding myself, letting others step up to bear the burden. But witnessing the fate of those who had stood out, I clearly understood that if I just went with the flow, the outcome would definitely be destruction. Since that was the case, I might as well live true to my heart, live for my soul. The pulling sensation on my consciousness gradually intensified. Sure enough, this wasn't a simple reward claim, but a disguised interrogation. I didn't resist, actively dropping my defenses. The world spun, and my vision went dark. When I opened my eyes again, I froze. The world in my sight wasn't the gray space from when I exited the instance, nor was it an endless void. This place, though I hadn't stayed long, was strangely familiar. It was the dorm room in the government-built shelter on Earth, the place I had once been assigned to.